Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here. I am joined once again by Inquisitor
Mat-
Matumentus. Is that how you say it?
Matumentus, like momentous.
Matumentus. It's Matt and Mo are a bit of a weird transliteration.
But I'm full of matumentum, the unstoppable force of matumentum.
I mean, that could be a compliment, or that could be an insult, depending on how you look at it. But okay. What's I mean, how about uh Machumont, like Juggernaut?
Well, see, the formula for momentum is 1/2 mass times velocity. The formula for matumentum is 1/2 mass times velocity cubed. So there you go.
Ah,
That's
I was
how
gonna
much more
say because
powerful I am.
I feel like Juggernaut would be the better one to be because Juggernaut's apparently unkillable and unstoppable,
Um,
which is interesting.
Not quite.
He's
There
got some
are
weird curse
rules.
on him that is.
That's not the curse. He's the avatar of a god named Sidorak, who is a god of sort of momentum, basically.
Well,
And
I know, but I meant like the part like he can be stripped down to his bone and he'll just like come back,
well, there are
kind of thing.
ways to around that other godly or powerful beings can deal with, um, and also learn how much of Sidorak he's channeling, right? So
I don't know
it,
enough about it, but
it's again. I don't want to sidetrack into a 1 hour discussion of Juggernaut, but standard Juggernaut is a class 100 brick who as long as he has a helmet on can't be stopped with psychic powers, right? Um, Now
or
and he has a
walls.
force field, and he has a force field that protects him from like so. Someone like Thor, for example, could turn the force field off and then like use his other powers to go around the Juggernaut's standard Juggernaut powers, right? Whereas someone like say, or Doctor Strange could do that, right? Whereas say the Hulk could just would probably lose unless he enraged to a certain point because
Planet
all he can do is
Breaker
hit the
Hulk or
Juggernaut.
whatever.
All he can do is hit the Juggernaut, and excuse me, the Hulk can eventually enrage strong enough to destroy even energy with punching it, but that takes a lot of enragement. Before that, Juggernaut would knock him out.
I would see like Juggernaut like tickling him to kill off the enrichment. That'd be funny. But yes, we are here and we are talking about Juggernaut for some reason. But I like Juggernaut, so it's not that bad. Before we get started, I did want to jump through the ad read. It's not an ad read because I don't get paid for any of these ads. I just do them because I like to support these guys because they make good stuff. They're anti-censorship, pro gamers, that kind of a thing. So, first one we got MetaPC. So, if you are not familiar with MetaPCs, they are run by veterans of the military, and they've got all sorts of cool stuff that you can particularly pick a pre-made. You can have them custom make something for you, whatever the case might be. And they're just a cool place, and you can use code 199, which is a Geeks and Gamers code. It's not my code. I don't get anything from this. To get percentage off of your purchase. I don't know if it's 10%, 20%, whatever the percent. I don't know what it is. But yeah, you can give them some love and pick up a cool PC if that is your prerogative or you are in the market. And if you are not in the market, eventually you will need to upgrade because that's how PCs work. But that's something to take a gander at if you would like to support somebody who also supports that kind of deal. And I just realized some of these stuff I have to kind of pre-check because the next site is DEG mods. So I have to make sure there's no bad stuff popping up because they're mod sites, and unfortunately, sometimes that stuff exists. But yes, DEG mods is one of two mod sites that more or less I would endorse due to the fact that they do not censor things and in fact host places where you can get stuff that's been censored by Nexus mods. And if you are familiar with the Nexus mods conundrum, Nexus mods is very political and is very anti free choice of the gamer. If they deem your stuff to be bad, they will not let you basically post on their site about it. They could potentially even ban you as a completely creator, user, or whatever. But DG Mods is one of the good places to go to see if they have mods that you would like. I will warn anybody about any mod site, period, is there will be NSFW stuff on all of them because that's just mods in general. There's always going to be probably something that has them. On to the next one. Let's see if any of these are. Oh, there you go. We can do some not horrible ones. So, also, we have Ayaka mods that you can also check out. They have a variety of mods, also some NSFW stuff, so careful on that if that is relevant to you.
If I may interject,
Sure.
if you need a mod site that is safe for work or children, I believe Cursed Gaming is owned by Amazon now, so they've banned all like
Adult
not safe
mods
for
or
work stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that's an issue for your religion or your children or whatever,
Mhm.
that's a site you can use.
And I do believe that they have options and filters for most mod sites to where you can turn off adult content, turn off nudity or anything like that, so that it will become. I would still recommend if you have children or something of that nature that you want to avoid those things, go ahead and do that before you let the kids on the site, or don't let them go
Yeah.
on the site by themselves. Those kind of things. Your own parental choices. I mean, do what's best for your kids.
Or yourself, whatever.
And yourself too. Yes, if you have your own boundaries, then mark your own boundaries in the filter before you jump into anything, or at least have a general idea what you're looking for, or ask for recommendations in forums before you go in there, and that'll help you get to where you want to go without having to go through any sludge that you consider sludge. But Ayaka mods and DEG mods are two pro free speech, anti censorship kind of pro gamer mod sites. I'd say check them out. But yeah, as for that, that will be it for the just ads of not ads because I'm not getting paid for them. I just like these places because they're cool and they're not jerks. At least so far. I have not considered anything they've done or said as jerkish. So keep doing that, guys. Anyway, should we jump into the first topic of
Great
concern?
Mills Lane. Let's get it on.
Let's get it on. Sorry. I don't know why.
You
I hear
know,
that all the time, and I don't even know what it's from. I literally
you
just
know what
mimic
Mills
it.
Lane? You know what Mills Lane is?
No.
He's a legendary boxing and pro wrestling announcer. So much so that he got hired for every big match. And his famous saying is, "Let's get on."
The only one I remember was Rumble, Ready to Rumble boxing on 64 back in the day. And
Yeah,
they had, let's get ready to rumble. That was one I remember.
that's the other guy, Michael something.
I didn't grow
His,
up watching boxing, so
yeah, these back then of the announcers, like if you follow combat sports or pro wrestling, the ring announcers, generally speaking, become very
well, I know like
known for
UFC's got like Joe Rogan and stuff, but that's about
no,
the
no,
only one I really
not talking about the
commentators.
analyzers. I know what the guy who announces the ring announcer, the guy who announces the match, who says who's coming to the ring, or who says who won it, that sort of thing. That's
Yeah.
called the ring announcer. Mills Lane, Michael something. The guy for Let's Get Ready to Rumble is Michael something. He would go, "Let's get ready to rumble," you know.
And
And
rumble they
obviously,
did.
if you don't follow sports, it's a not new thing to you. But those guys are the whole culture of those.
Well, they're the
type of stuff.
personality behind it. Kind of
Yeah.
like for the analyzers and whatnot. I think it was like Joe
Well,
Rogan, John
they
Madden.
market themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like well, they have that personality that draws people in or gets people excited,
Yeah.
energizes them, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But let's jump into this first one. You may have not heard of this. You might have. I don't know. But there is a game coming out, and I want you to watch this just because it's so freaking
What did
funny.
it say? Before I even watch it, go scroll up. What did it say?
Well, we'll cover that. This is part of the surprise. we'll
Well, I
cover.
saw a word there that.
Yeah, I know you
confused
did.
me.
But I want you to cringe at this. So
Okay.
here we go. Let me know if you can't hear it.
Treaties were signed, promises made and broken. Is it stealing to take back what was stolen?
Stolen? Who is stealing them?
Us. It's time to get out of there.
Let me introduce a friend of mine. Smart, agile, and will let you look into places with the tightest security.
Let's go! I could probably bench press every one of them.
The locksmith strikes again. Hold on.
Listen, are you having second thoughts?
Nope. Just hoping you won't get me killed.
Yeah.
I know what you and your little crew are doing.
Nobody threatens my family or my friends and gets away with it. So we are going to do whatever it takes to take back Africa's belongings. And we're going to do it together.
What?
I knew that was going to be your reaction too. So it says,
Okay, let me.
announcing Relooted, an African futuristic heist game where you can reclaim real African looted artifacts from Western museums.
Okay, so before we talk about the idiocy of the game, like the plot, visually it looks kind of okay. You know what I mean?
It looks underdone. This looks like worse than GameCube era to me
Well,
personally. But
no, I mean, it looks like it has
Time
flow
Splitters
to
has
it,
better graphics at 1080p. Just saying.
but it looks like it has flow to it. Like it's like a side scroll and run around type of game. It's not. It's not kind
Gameplay
of
wise, it's not
convoluted.
that bad, but cinematic wise, it's pretty
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. Now, as far as the plot of the game, okay. Oh, for fuck's sake, okay.
I just love it. You're like, what? And I was like, yep, I knew you were gonna say that.
Now, yes, there has been a lot of looting around the world, and not just to Western countries. Like, um,
Well, these are
a lot of times
museums as opposed to just like, tomb
prior to
runners.
prior to um the I want to say the year 1700 or so, maybe 1650. All these so-called African countries that we took slaves from and looted from, we didn't actually do that. They did that and then sold them to us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
because the odds of surviving the medical conditions of malaria and stuff as a non-African person, non-sub-Saharan African in those countries, you had a high chance of dying from those conditions. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't until they invented modern, well, not modern thoughts, but relatively modern medicine for malaria and some other disease, dysentery and all that, that a European or Asian could even survive going inland in Africa, you know, to allegedly loot these ancient kingdoms of Southern Africa. Now, so that's the historical nonsense of that. Okay. Now, the second thing is,
Find it.
I wrapped it up in one. I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea of a, you know, of the idea of the game. Because like I said, there was some of that going on, but
Mhm.
the people who have bigger claims to that would be people of the Middle East, where all those tombs like in Egypt and all and
Yeah,
Iran.
but a lot of that stuff they have government sanctions, permissions and stuff.
Well, I mean, we're talking like the British and the French when they dominated those areas, they basically pilfered all those tombs. You know,
I mean, maybe.
no, I'm just saying historically. That's why you had all these mummies and stuff in England and Europe, Western Europe. Now, but like I said, I hate when they ignore what actually happened, which is problematic, to make a woke version of I don't know what to say about it because it's going to be it's a preposterously bad game based on the plot.
Well, I have this wonderful thing I want to share with you. It's a funny little meme. 100% diverse game dev team, touting black culture and heritage. Game's a looter. Game's a looter? I just love, like, the memes write themselves. It's and it's one of those things where, and it's okay for you to laugh, by the way. But it's one of those things where they're like, oh, well, they have stuff that belongs to my people. I'm like, your people? Like, have any of you even been to Africa? What? If somebody went to Sicily and quote unquote looted stuff, I wouldn't be like hunting down museums to get the stuff back. I would learn about the history and like who went where and who did what.
For those of you who will catch this, it's early on video, so more people will see it. Go back and look at the videos of people like African Americans who go back to Africa. They are not well treated by the black folk down there.
Yeah,
they're considered not that I would consider this, but half breeds or too far left, and all sorts of having crazy ideologies.
Their cultures are polar opposites, essentially. Like the tradition and traditional cultures that they have in Africa are entirely different than what is in America. And you might have a small percentage of people who have come from Africa over to America to where they still like wear the cultural garb, they behave the cultural way. And that's what I would say would be the actual African culture.
Okay, let me try this way. Most African countries, right? Even the ones who attend left social in terms of economics, socially, they are extremely socially conservative, right? So, for example, if you're a modern leftist black African woman and you want to go seek your freedom in Africa, they can't tolerate you being gay or whatever else you want to be, you know. And there's not. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying people don't get, like, they don't look into Africa, but to understand what really happened there and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I understand. And I agree. I thought that meme was freaking hilarious. It's like literally, we're not a stereotype, proceeds to like completely encourage the stereotype, and you're like, what? And from what I understand, that game is doing terrible right now.
I'll give you another one. So most people know this one. Have you ever heard of a book called Roots by Alex Haley?
Roots? I've heard of it. There's even a show about it, I think.
They made a TV miniseries that was very popular in the 80s, right?
I think we've mentioned
Turns out that Roots about Kunta Kinte, the slave ancestor, was entirely made up. Not just the character was made up. He alleged he was real, but the whole storyline of how he became a slave and all that sort of stuff glossed over the fact that it was Africans selling Africans into slavery and all sorts of stuff like that.
Color me shocked, pun intended. Sorry.
Well, that was the history of the world. Slavery, every culture took slaves, and it was almost until...
The idea is that slavery has been around since the dawn of mankind, but chattel slavery in the modern sense is a very new concept.
No, that's another myth, okay?
No, it's not. It's really not. There were understandings like Romans preferred Greeks because they kind of adored Greek culture and how like Greeks were.
No. There was different classes of slaves in Rome, okay?
Well, yes, now, but you could be European and still be a lower class.
Yeah. But
so, like it wasn't because you were skin color per se.
There were no. The skin color associated with slavery likely arose out of international slave trade. That's what people think would happen. But the idea of owning a human being and them never being free, which is what chattel slavery is, that's been around for a long time. Okay, there's always been some people who were dehumanized to that extent by some cultures.
Yes, but I'm talking like in terms of when I mean chattel slavery, I'm talking about like based off of your point of origin. Like you are black, therefore you are not a human mentality.
That was always true. The foreigners were always the first choice of slaves.
Because I mean they had the same concept towards Irish people or whatever. Like everybody everywhere was like you're another group, and therefore it's okay to enslave you. But it wasn't because you're black or you're white, and therefore it's okay to enslave you.
The term race used to be synonymous with ethnicity. Okay.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is that the culture, like. To Rome, everybody else was acceptable in enslavement, but not like other Romans. But there were
Correct.
people who were
Because
slaves
Romans
that
were
could become
the
Romans,
superior.
but will always be a lower caste.
Romans were the superior race or ethnicity.
Well, they believed
That
they
was the
were,
Roman.
yes.
Yeah. The same thing.
Everybody believed that, though. That's the thing.
The Chinese had the same thing. The Japanese had the same thing.
But I'm saying, like, they didn't go around and say, "Oh, you have this skin color, therefore you are inferior." They said,
what
"You
they
are
said
different,
was-
there you are inferior."
What they
That's
would say
different.
was your ethnicity has a skin color associated. In other words, like this is how people misunderstand this about slavery. Okay,
Well, they misunderstand a lot of things about slavery, but there's also
Yeah.
different types of slavery, so that throws in a wrench as well.
well, really historically there was, and Thomas Sowell has a good book on this. There's really two types of slavery. There's what you call chattel slavery, which is you never get free, and then there's sort of like indentured servitude to some degree or another, where you're a slave but you can buy your way out.
Well,
Right.
like, I mean, I'm talking like you have, prisoner of war slavery, which is pretty much indefinite.
Well,
Then
that's where chattel slavery came from, where you go and conquer a bunch of
well, that's what I'm
foreigners.
saying is that there's a difference between chattel slavery and racial chattel slavery, because if you got a quote unquote
No. It's not the difference. It will be a modern difference because they changed what the word race meant. Okay.
I know, but I'm saying the concept that you are not human is a modern concept. It's like
Nope.
a couple hundred years old. It's not like
The ancient Egyptians did not consider the Jews to be human.
they didn't
so
care
they-
if they were human. That wasn't their mindset. Their mindset
the
wasn't they're
Romans-
human. Their mindset was we are superior.
The Romans didn't care if they considered the Irish to be human or the Germans to be human.
I know, but they didn't not consider them human. They considered them less than Roman. That's
No,
a
they
massive
considered them
detail.
not human. You need to do more translation of ancient Latin.
I'm understanding the translation. I'm just not removing the context from the translation because they
You're
consider
applying a
people
modern-
less
You're
than.
applying a modern definition of the word race when the word race used to be synonymous with ethnicity. And every ancient culture said
Everybody
considered-
thought they were better than everybody else. Yes,
And-
but
and
that's
human-
not the same as saying your skin color means you're not human. That's not the same thing at all.
it's part and parcel of the same thing.
No. They're different. There are so many things in ancient culture that use similar words with different meanings and different understandings. Like when who is it? Metatron talks about Greeks and how they treated homosexuality is not at all the way we treat homosexuality today. They don't understand it the same concept, even though it's the same word. And a lot of people use the Greek terms from like the Greek poets and whatnot to be like, oh, see, there was homosexuality. Like they're not the same thing, despite sharing the same word. They had an entirely different way in the culture of how they did things. But that's stuff that people don't look at the context. They just look at the word and see the definition, say, oh, that's basically the same thing. It's really not, because you could say the same word and not have the same meaning. Like most words have multiple meanings, so that's not like anything new. It's just how ancient culture used them. We don't have that in our modern day dictionaries. What we do in modern day dictionaries is how do we use the term now, and that's how they adjust things.
Yes.
But my point is that deciding that the Carthaginians are less than Roman is not because some of them might be black. It's not, oh well, they're black, therefore they're less than. What it is they're an enemy of Rome and therefore less than Rome because they're not Roman. Because even if you were from Rome, but you weren't quote unquote Roman because you didn't have citizenship status,
the Carthaginians
they'd still treat you
were
as
brown skinned people, not a black skinned people for the most part.
No. Carthaginians were mixed because they were everywhere. They were
brown skinned people are mixed people.
I know, but I'm saying like some were white, some were black, some were mixed. Most of them were probably mixed, but I'm saying it wasn't a mono ethnicity place.
And there was a Roman senator who routinely, you can go find it if you go every I don't know where was Roman settlement, he would go those foul inhuman Carthaginians. You'd rant on them.
Yeah, Rome didn't like the Carthaginians. This is not news.
Yeah, because they were baby murdering pieces of crap.
Sure, and that's completely fair, but it wasn't their skin color that was the reason for that.
He would rant about their skin color too.
I'm sure he would, because some people didn't like other skin colors. Sure, but I'm saying the entire slave trade was not built upon a person's skin color. It was built upon they didn't like them.
It's just like the skin color. It's because when they consider the ethnic other,
that's what I said. I said that earlier.
Skin color.
They are not us, therefore I don't deem them to be of my equal status. That's
No,
how they
no.
did things.
In many cases, they're us. Therefore, I deem them to be not human.
I feel like that's a very ultra
Why do you
simplified
think
version
Rome
of that.
salted the earth for Carthage?
They didn't actually salt the earth of Carthage. They just wiped them out pretty good.
I'm using a metaphor.
I know, but I'm saying Metatron's covered this topic so many times. Like that's not what it meant.
And
But
I literally read this in high school. So
I know, and I'm saying Metatron has gone to the sources and covered this topic pretty freaking in depth.
yes, and salting the earth is a metaphor for wiping out a civilization totally.
Yes, it's called hyperbole. Yes, I
Yes.
know.
So why do you
They
think
didn't
Rome?
actually do that?
Well, which is irrelevant. You're skipping the point. I'm using a metaphor to indicate total destruction. So
Well, yeah,
you should
they
understand that.
hated the Carthaginians. I'm not denying that.
Because they considered to be non-human because they murdered babies.
I don't know if that's the reason they consider them non-human, but
Yeah,
I
that
know,
was the reason.
No. I'm not. Okay, you're not understanding. I'm not saying they didn't like them because they murdered babies. I'm not saying that's not why they liked them. I'm saying I don't think that's the reason they didn't consider them human. I think there's a totality of things that made it to one thing that says
Well,
we don't
they had
consider them.
other abominable practices, but sacrificing
Sure.
thousands and thousands of babies and children.
But Carthaginians are
something-
not unique in this. There are plenty of other
Oh
places
no,
that
they
this
were
too.
everyone. If you go to like even their neighboring the Philistines and all that,
Yeah,
everyone
I
thought the
know.
Carthaginians was subhuman garbage. Everyone.
Well, I mean, I don't. Subhuman versus just disgusting humans, I don't know because I haven't looked in that sourcing myself. But what I'm talking about is that you can like somebody less, not because their skin tone, but actually because of their deeds. Or the fact that they're constantly attacking you. That could be one reason. But when it comes to the concept of your skin color makes you lesser than is not the same as I'm going to enslave you because of your skin color. Because the Rome thought everybody who wasn't a Roman citizen was less than, even if you were white.
Okay.
It didn't
So,
matter.
Sub-Saharan Africans weren't enslaved because of their skin color. They were enslaved because the dominant African tribes conquered their neighbors and sold them into slavery.
Well, yes, I understand that, but I'm saying that the slave traders who went there to deal with them, their cultures considered them less than because they saw them as less intelligent or
And they'll say they bought
whatever.
they bought white or captured white slaves. They brought them there too.
Sure. Yeah.
Millions of the Barbary pirates, in that same time period that the African slave trade was blooming, they captured millions
But
of Europeans.
I would argue that like the English or French or whoever taking Irish slaves didn't see the Irish as quote unquote not human. They saw them as less than because they were Irish and everybody hated the Irish. But that's a different story in that regard.
The Irish English antipathy, honestly, even to like in the 70s and 80s, I have relatives who are married to Irish guys, and there was a lot of blood there. I don't want to go crazy into it.
I mean, it's like the Hatfields and McCoys all over again. I mean, the way I see it is the way Americans treated the Irish when they came across, when they treated the Italians and the Sicilians, not that great. I'm not going to say they enslaved everybody because this is the 1800s, but they did not treat them well when they came across.
Well, slavery in Europe was largely ending because of two things: the British drive, the British drive to end slavery, right, which was based on Christian principle and all that.
The abolitionist British, yes, because there was another
the
British
other big
side that
thing
was
that-
trying to push against it. So yeah,
The other big thing was basically Adam Smith codifying free market economics and explaining exactly how paying people always produce more income and profit in
you
slavery.
create better stuff than somebody who has no motivation to do so, etc. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious. That's why we don't have prisons completely making things of extreme detail that won't kill people because the prisoners don't care. But I totally get that. I'm just saying that the concept of how like for in the terms of Relooted is they're going around stealing what they think was stolen, but at the different time period you could also look at it and say where like Indiana Jones is it belongs in a museum versus we're taking back what they stole from us, and it's like, okay, give me a detailed journal of all these things that were quote unquote taken and how did they apprehend the artifacts. Did they get them because they came over and paid for them, because like some countries, they don't care about these ancient artifacts. They just need the finances to keep the country running, type of thing.
You know,
So if you
these
go over and
Afro-
you like, I want to do an archaeological dig here, you pay them to have the rights to that area so that you can uncover things, and you take those things and put them in your museum, and then you preserve them. And then there's an agreement between you and that government to do certain things. Now, am I saying that some of this stuff was not gotten completely by good means? I'm not saying that they didn't happen that way, but I don't know, and probably neither do the people in this video game that have no idea how these things came to be the way they got. And maybe in the game they try to explain it. I don't know. I have no intention of playing this game.
I would be impressed if
I don't
this
think they
actual
put that much
game-
thought in it. I think they just went and said, white man bad, white man steal, we're going to do this.
That's probably what they did, and then like
It's very simple-minded and not very historical,
Yeah.
is my opinion of it, but
Yeah.
it is what
I
it is.
agree that that's the way it's going to be. But I would be impressed if the actual artifacts were actually the few legit items that were stolen. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
I mean, I would say that there are probably stolen items among museums, collections. But how
Yeah.
they got them, I don't know. Maybe somebody stole them from the people who stole them. I don't know. But to say that something being preserved in a museum, because if you put one of these museums in Africa, what are the odds of it being stolen by people of ill intent? Probably much higher than if you put it in like a British museum or an American museum, because they have ridiculous security, and trying to get into one of those places is going to be probably pretty difficult. So at least it's being preserved. Your history is being preserved. Where in your own place, it might not, because of cultural unrest or this, that, or the other. Like, some countries are better than others. Who knows? But it also depends on where they came from and all that jazz. But either way, on to a better topic. A much better topic. So, this popped up. I think we can all agree this is a much better topic. So, do you know what game this is from, good sir? I'm going to say no, but just in case you do.
I'm going to say no too.
All right. So, this is Vindictus 2. And their costume game is getting strong. Yes, I would agree with that.
I feel I need to start vindicating stuff now.
Vindication! But yes, Vindictus 1 is out, and I believe it's a free-to-play, and you can like buy outfits if you want to, but it's a much older game. I think it came out like 2010-ish era or something like that, maybe a little bit later. But this is a game that's coming out soon, and they're definitely taking advantage of the market that prefers the Eastern style women as opposed to the Western style. Vindictus is notorious for actually having, actual gameplay and lots to do, as opposed to some might claim First Descendant or whatever, where you can actually go around, you do missions, you fight things. I think it's supposed to be a much bigger open world, but it's something that I would consider to be something that most of us in the pro gamer side of things is like, hey, if this is something you like, look into it. If it's not something you like, don't look into it. Or look into it. Yeah, that works too. But Vindictus wasn't bad. The first one was much more instance-based than what this one, I believe, is supposed to be. But this Vindictus 2 game is intriguing. One of the draws, obviously, attractive women, because gamers like to see attractive things, whether they're men or women. Shocking. I mean, no one's surprised by this. But saying that, hey, you can make an attractive woman in a game where most games now you cannot, that's going to change everything for a lot of people, because a lot of these games you go in and you get, body type A, body type B kind of nonsense. This game's not going to have that. And because these are women, they're not body types. They're definitively women. And the graphic upgrade is much, 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 much bigger than Vindictus 1. But again, Vindictus 1 is much, much older. But being able to do this, or like, for example, the one right here on the right, the Oath of Steel, like, that's freaking cool looking, and it's consider. I mean, even the Twilight Warrior set is pretty freaking cool looking, but I like the helmet of the Oath one. None of the other ones really have the armor type setting that I can really see out of any of these, except for
They have something.
those two. But I would argue that those two are no less sexy than the rest of the other ones that are designed to be sexy. They're just designed to be sexy in a different way. You can make somebody in full plate armor, and I know that Shad has his boob armor video that he's in favor of boob armor, and not necessarily just for the reasons you might be thinking, but it's one of those cool things. It's like, it's practical if that were to take place, although I doubt there were many of them actually made in real life for active role and use in the battlefield, but it's a cool concept. It makes your character look cool, and it's a third person game, so you actually get to see your character. So this is when the actual outfits you're wearing actually matter. Now, I don't believe it's a game in which what you're wearing equates to your armor stats. So obviously if you're wearing the Fated Prophet set and it's literally just a really thin linen cloth on you, it's not going to have, any difference in stats to the Oath of Steel, because the way the game's designed is it's more of I think they call it like a transfixion or not, transmogrify or whatever it's called, where basically you can have you get armor and then you put this look over the armor, so you can enjoy the look of your character but actually having the armor with actual stats, that kind of thing. None of these are going to come with stats. They're only going to be just, my character looks cool, my character looks unique, or whatever the case might be.
I'm sure they'll come with something.
No, the players will come with something, but I
give new meaning to the term Vindictus.
I'm gonna vindicate. But no,
it's going to be mass online vindicating.
I mean, I think this game's going to explode. Now, it has this currency of 2,200, and I guess you can buy 2 sets. I'm worried that this is not going to be you unlock one and it unlocks on all your characters. I'm worried it's going to be per character. I'm not particularly fond of that when games do that, because games like Guild Wars 2 will have some sets that are light, medium, and heavy. So whatever you're wearing, if you're a light armor class, you only get the light armor look. And then they'll have other things that light, medium, and heavy are all the same. Like the appearance look is the same regardless. So, but any of your characters, any of your light characters can use the light armor look if it's difference between light, medium, and heavy. But then the ones that are light, medium, heavy regardless, you only buy it once and you get it for all your characters. I have 13 characters in Guild Wars 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of characters. I have a problem. I just like different classes and I like to explore with all of them. So I do. But I'm worried that they're going to basically, like, you can buy 2 of this thing, and that's probably going to be $20 to $50. I don't know. I don't know how much 2,200 coins is going to be, but it's probably anywhere between $20 to $40 or $50 or something. And if you look at like First Descendant, some of them might even be $60 or $100. I don't know. But I think that people would be more willing to put it into this as opposed to maybe the First Descendant, because while the First Descendant gameplay is fun, there's just not a lot of content. It's very limited in content, and it's also super grindy. And not everybody wants it to be super grindy. They want it to be more fun. If it was more like Borderlands 2, which we'll get to it later on, where it's randomized loot and everything, that's not that big of a deal. But if you're like having to have a specific thing and you're grinding like crazy, you can grind for 8 hours on something and not get it. That's not fun anymore. But the game is fun, like going around shooting people and customizing your weapons and stuff. It's fun. Having cool loadouts is fun. But I think this one would be more fun because you'll have a class to play. You'll be able to customize male or female. You'll be able to pick out what these outfits are. This might have 2, one's for women characters and one's for men characters. I don't know, because the designs will have to change. But I don't know. It's a Nexon game, if I recall correctly. Which I believe is Korean, I don't remember. South Korean specifically.
Well, the Koreans clearly have their priorities straight.
Well, they're definitely straight.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is something I'm looking forward to. I am a little skeptical on the whole 2 remaining thing. I don't like that concept. I think if you buy something, at the very least, if you buy it if there's like separated by men and women, I think it should be like if I buy one for women, it's all women can use that like all my characters that are women can use that one, and if there's men, all of them win. I don't think it should even be that level because obviously they can put out. I mean, this is what freaking 12 of these things, or no, 5, 10, 15, 20. That's 20 skins right there, and if each of those is a certain amount, you're gonna get some of them sold, and if you get some of them sold, you're already paying off the freaking skin and all the work you've done on it. And some of these,
Well,
I mean,
it's a sort of economic argument. Like, let's say you have 1 million customers, right?
yeah,
Even if only 1% of them buy something, and it's $5 per.
mm-hmm.
That means you still have a solid $5,000 coming in.
For
So
one
you like,
skin, yeah.
yeah. So you gotta like
Well,
it's
they know that people are gonna buy this because who doesn't want a freaking hot character skin? Like nobody's going into these kind of games and saying, "Man, I really hope they have ugly skins and ugly things for my
Yeah.
character." Nobody's gonna put warts and moles over their character's face. No, you're playing these games because attractiveness plus fun gameplay. Now, Vindictus has fun gameplay. It's not like boring or anything like that. It is something that's probably more fun with friends. And if you don't have a lot of friends like me on games, then it's not nearly as much fun. But like as I learned by playing with Sage, playing Elden Ring by yourself versus playing with a friend, it's more fun playing with a friend because you can do more crazy combinations and more. You can take things on at a lower level that you wouldn't normally be able to take on. You might
most
still
things
die
are
a
more
lot. But,
fun.
well, I know, but a lot of people want to do things on their own and they want to, whatever. And it's like, okay, cool for you, but the rest of us want to play with people because I prefer co-op over PvP, but I would prefer co-op PvE versus co-op PvP because I don't really care to fight other people because there's always going to be people better than me at something, and I don't have the time to invest in something to be so good that I have nothing to worry about. That's why when I play Black Desert Online, I just didn't get into PvP. I didn't like it. I didn't care for it. I wanted to go places, fight enemies, and get to the next place because it's a freaking huge map. That's how I wanted to do things. So this kind of a game will be a lot more fun with more people, albeit I'm expecting this to do freaking really good because probably the game's going to be free to play, and this is how they make their money. And that's probably why the outfits are as expensive as they are. But I mean, you can get into Guild Wars 2. The core edition's free. And they have tons of outfits that you can buy, and they rotate through stuff to make more of a scarcity thing. But I support Guild Wars 2 because I like what they did with the game in terms of they made it open world, it's real-time combat, that kind of a thing. Like, it takes actual skill to play. What I don't care about the story, because the story's honestly not that good once they got to certain expansions and whatnot, and they just kind of went off the deep end. But in terms of the actual playing, it's really fun. So I would support them by getting the Ultimate Edition, which is like $100 or something. And I would support them that way because I like what they're doing, and I've been playing for, how many years has it been? 15 plus years, something like that. I don't know. It's been a long time. But with these kind of games, maybe they're expensive because they are free to play. Like the first Descendant's free to play, and they had some really expensive skins. It's not as bad as freaking Team Ninja with Dead or Alive when they came out. They're like, yeah, we're gonna make a DLC thing of just costumes. You get like 4 costumes. It's gonna be like $100, and you're like,
Was Dead or Alive or was
I don't understand that. Who's gonna pay
well,
that?
they the game that spent like a huge amount of budget on women's breast 3D.
Dead or Alive, because I only had Xbox growing up. I didn't have PlayStation, so I couldn't play Tekken, even though I loved playing as King. Tekken 3 was what got me into fighting games.
I love Tekken. Yeah, Tekken was great.
That was at arcades and stuff. But I didn't have a PlayStation, so I couldn't get it. And the only ones that were really on Xbox was Dead or Alive. But then I found out that if you take your age and you change the meter, you can change how the boobs move. And it was so funny. And
well, they spent a significant amount of their budget on with physicists and everything developing the software and the technology for realistic large boob mechanics. And then they made the volleyball game.
Dead or Alive Extreme, yes, I have that.
Yeah,
I have all the Extreme games. I just can't understand a couple of them because they're in Japanese. At least their instructions, their gameplays in English, or English subtitles. Screw English dub. It's terrible. But I mean, I have them all because I've collected Dead or Alive since Dead or Alive Ultimate 1 and 2. Like I've always collected that because I didn't have any other ones to collect. I'm not like amazing at the game, but I can
I
beat
think
the
they
game.
did a
And that's
Dead or
it.
Alive anime.
I don't know if they did, honestly.
I think they did
I
one.
I haven't heard about it if it have, but like,
and I was like, I see when I first saw it, I couldn't figure out what it was, right? Because it was like the subtitles and all that. But I'm watching it, and all of a sudden I'm seeing the boobs, and I'm like, that's got to be Dead or Alive, you know?
well, I mean, a lot of places do boob physics and whatnot, but what they did in Dead or Alive, I think it was boob and butt physics later on, like
it had
after
the
like
funniest.
4.
Now you remind me of it. It had the funniest, like out of context power up. So like, it was Dead or Alive is a standard fighting game. Folks don't know that other than the boobs. Standard fighting game, right?
The non-Dead or Alive extreme games are fighting
Yeah.
games. The Dead or Alive
Well,
extreme
what I mean
games
is,
are like
it's not a
volleyball
it's not,
or
it's not a Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat where you shoot giant fireballs and have,
yeah, they have their quote unquote magic is like ninja
yeah, I'm
type
getting there.
stuff.
So
Yeah,
at the end of that movie, the main guy is fighting with some dude over to rescue his chick's breasts or whatever, and out of nowhere he palm slaps the building and blows it up. No context explanation of how he can do that, and everyone, all my friends, were like, wait a minute, why did he hit the motherfucker he's fighting like that? What the-
well, to be fair, the people that he's fighting probably have more toughness than that building.
Yeah.
But I mean, like one of my favorite things about Ryu Hayabusa, who's Ninja Gaiden, if you guys are not aware, and the Ninja Gaiden series is fun, also super freaking hard. But Ryu Hayabusa has this thing where like he grabs you from behind and he twirls as he flips you up into the air, and then twirls down and just slams you into the ground head first, as like a giant tombstone type move from like wrestling. But it's freaking hilarious because he like teleports you into the air and then just spirals you down, and it's a fun, cool thing. But it's not like he's pulling out blue fire magic from like Mortal Kombat and chucking it at people or something like that. Like it's taking the realistic, because they have some wrestlers in there. But they have wrestlers. I mean, Tekken has some wrestlers too, but they also have like super power ups and Tengu demonic powers and stuff, which goes a little bit more supernatural. Where most of the stuff in Dead or Alive is like cybernetic or AI type powers, like elemental powers of like a mutation kind of a thing, and they have mostly like ninjutsu type stuff. It's
not like it's not super powered ninjutsu.
Yeah, it's not like Marvel versus Capcom.
Jump a little higher.
It's not Marvel versus Capcom.
Yeah, like maybe you could jump a little higher or do a double backflip, whatever, you know.
Yeah, it's what you'd expect from like standardized fighting rather than like supernatural fighting.
People remember, as per the laws of the 1980s ninja movie, which carried forward, anytime a ninja jumps, twists, or twirls, it amplifies his power by 10.
Yeah, and they also get plot armor. But point being is that Dead or Alive had some interesting mechanics, let's say, huge tracts of land, and that was a big draw to it. But for me, it was the only thing I had access to at the time, and so I just started collecting it because I was like, this is pretty freaking cool. I'm not really a big fan of fighter games in the modern era because I don't like the whole, you know, what would it be like XY? X is like a soft kick or a low kick, and Y is a high kick, A is a low punch, and B is a high punch, kind of a thing. And then you have to go like X, Y, B, Y, X, A, Y, X, B, up, down, left, right, to do one freaking move. And it's like, stop making it so complicated. It doesn't need to be this complicated. It can be so much more simple, and you're making it complicated. That's why I like Super Smash Bros. Because Super Smash Bros. Balanced speed, defense, and offense. And that's what most of these games like Tekken, Dead or Alive, etc., they lack.
If there was one type of game that got, in my view, hurt and almost ruined by modern graphics, it's fighting games.
I don't know. Street Fighter's always had pretty bad
graphics. There's too much on the screen now in modern fighting games, like all these explosions and like
that doesn't bother me. It's the gameplay. Like I can beat most of these games, albeit very difficultly, by just doing basic punches and kicks, because I don't play against players in like Dead or Alive and stuff. I play in Smash Bros, but I won't play it in, these basic PvP and like Tekken or anything, because obviously there's gonna be people who dedicate their lives to it and they're gonna smoke me and I don't even care to even start that fight. But it's just the combos get too ridiculous. And I was doing this because I played Stellar Blade the other day because I had gotten up to the boss and then I had stopped because of some reason, I don't remember why. And I got back on. I had to relearn the entire game, like how to play by going to the little skill thing and playing like, how do I dodge this? How do I dodge that? Because they make it so complicated to do all these things. And I'm just like, I just want to beat the guy so I can restart the game and play through it again. Like, it doesn't have to be rocket science. I just need to, like, have some way to actually beat the bosses. And I had a conversation with Sage when we were playing Elden Ring. I was like, you know, there's ways to get around this by just making it difficult without making it stupid difficult by using stupid means. But I want a challenge. I don't want it to be infuriating to that point. But I know some people will take that and say, oh, you just want it easy. I mean, I think the option should be there if somebody wants it. I don't need that particularly. Like, I'll still play it if it's hard. I just don't want it to be something that no matter what you do, they're going to break through your defenses and you're just toast no matter what. And it's like, that's not fun. That's infuriating. But some people want the challenge of extremity. I'll make you a game that's extreme difficult. It's called randomization. No telegraphs, no presets. It's whatever the boss does. But I'm not going to leave you hanging and flying dry. I'm going to give you a way to deal with those kind of things. You just have to know how to use them. That's difficulty that's natural, and that's what I would do. But sorry, little sub rant. But I think
You're good.
the attraction level of games, like characters in games like this, Vindictus 2, Dead or Alive, Tekken, Street Fighter to some extent. Street Fighter's got a weird art style. Or even things like Skullgirls pre the stupid Encore nonsense. Or what is it? King's Fighters, or what was it called? As Virtual Fighters, King of Fighters, I think is what I'm thinking of. They have attractive characters because people, they want to be a big muscular guy, or you want to be a slim, good-looking lady, or in case Chun-Li, super thick thighs. But
Yeah.
There's certain things that draw you to those games, and the attractiveness is a big part of that. But it shouldn't be the only thing. And that's probably the First Descendants' big downfall, is they had the looks, but they didn't have the content. And thus, it dropped quite a bit. But they allegedly came out with a huge content patch recently, and that I haven't played it since then, but it's supposed to give you more. But that was the same problem I had with Destiny and Destiny 2, is that they didn't have enough content. Like, you go into a world, and the world was like, you beat it in 15 minutes. Like, there's just not a lot there. They reuse all this stuff the same time. But I'd rather play the First Descendant than Destiny, because First Descendant's got hot chicks. Comparative to Destiny, where you're so covered up, you're so robotic, you couldn't tell if you're a good looking character or an ugly character, or maybe it didn't matter, I don't know. But they both lack in content. So attractiveness isn't going to save one over the other per se, because ultimately people will run out of things to do. And once they run out of things to do, they leave the game to go play something that has more to do. So if Vindictus 2 comes in and has the content, like they have all these missions, you can go out with friends, you can go out solo, you can fight bosses, you can get loot, and they don't make it a supreme grind fest. I think it'll do really, really well, because for those who want to go above and beyond in the sexy character, boom, here's 20 outfits. This just right here, that's not including potentially more outfits or things that you can get that's just naturally in the game that are still good looking. Who knows? Now, whether or not this requires a freaking whole new PC, meta PCs, by the way, I don't know. It's probably going to be pretty freaking heavy in graphics, because these games tend to be, because the newer the game, the more demanding seems to be what it is. But I'm looking forward to it, because I think it'll be really good because of the prior Vindictus game, which you can check out for free on Steam, and probably on consoles if they have it on consoles. I don't know. But I think it'll at least get to the point that we would want it to be. But next topic, since we spent a long time on that too. So much to talk about.
We were getting our vindication on.
We were getting our vindication on. Grums had a post because of the recent conversation between Xbox Game Pass and what it's... Is it good or is it bad? I would argue it's both good and bad. It's good for gamers, it's bad for developers, which is his point here. But I would also say it's it's good because it's blended it in with the online play, so you're killing two birds with one stone. But at the same time, it's bad because not everybody wants the games bonuses because they want to have physical media. And if you're paying per month to have access to a rotating list, you're not always getting that media.
Yeah.
When I could just spend that extra money, like let's say it cost $8 a month for a whole year, or $8 per month for a whole year, or maybe $80 or whatever for the year, just to have internet access, which I think is still a lot and ridiculous considering you can do that on PC and not have to pay that. But okay. Or I could pay, $20 a month and get a whole bunch of games that I probably won't play. Or even if I do play them, it's not going to benefit the people who make those games to begin with. So why would I not just pay less and then go back the people I actually care about their games? And Grums makes this kind of post, so we'll go through it. Most gamers don't understand the Xbox Game Pass strategy, but they should. It's a wealth transfer. Here's how it works and how it robs indies to enrich AAA. And I would agree, because I'd rather support indies than AAA. Just saying. Only the top 24 or so daily played games ever get paid in by hours played. The rest get zero. Keep that in mind as you read. Game Pass pays a small upfront fee, nowhere near what the game would sell, to entice smaller indie devs to be there on their app. The big catalog of games and low monthly fee entices gamers and subscription services. He who has the most content flowing wins. I'm not really big on subscription. I'm bigger on physical media. Raise the price of games to drive even more gamers to Game Pass. Makes sense why everybody's trying to raise it as high as you can, because everybody wants everybody to subscribe to their thing. PlayStation just has a worse subscription system than Xbox does, because it's outrageously expensive and terrible stuff on it. Release a AAA title you own every month to suck up all the revenue via playtime. Indies drop off and get nothing. The bulk of the money goes to Microsoft. Gamers play on Game Pass instead of buying indie game, further giving Microsoft more of their money. This is a huge Trojan horse for monopolizing the game market, and gamers don't see it. This is very bad for indie games and smaller devs, as they make less and less while Microsoft uses their content to drive people into their service. And I would argue it's like, hey, check out all these games we have. We have, 100 games on here, 60 games or whatever. I don't even know. I don't have Game Pass. But we have so many of these games. Come check it out. But then everybody goes on and plays like 3 games. And then it rotates out.
And when you said gamers don't see it, not they don't see it, that most of them don't care.
There's that too. But I'm saying, like, in terms of what draws people, it's like, oh, I can pay $15 to $25 or $30, whatever it is for Xbox Game Pass now. I can pay $15 and play Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Well, that's cheaper than $80, so sure. But then they end up paying it another month, and another month, and another month. So if it's $15, after 4 months, you're basically already paying for what the freaking game's valued at. Or if you pay 5 months. Some people play Black Ops, like Black Ops 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. They play those for like years straight. I'm like, by that point, you've already paid for the game if you buy it flat outright for the whole total amount. But then you have to still pay online fees, which again, why I don't like online subscriptions for PlayStation, Xbox, and to some extent Nintendo. Nintendo has more of a reasonable price, because if you get like the family plan, it's like $8 a person for a year.
Well, the thing, like I said, most normie gamers, they're like, oh, I got that subscription. I had like 500 games or whatever.
Yeah.
Even though most of them are like average games. And
Origin does the same thing. Origin's like $5, or EA's version. It used to be Origin. I don't think it's EA Play or something now. They have like $5. You can play all the games that they have on EA, except you got to deal with EA. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the point I'm making, is the majority of gamers don't think, and it applies to other stuff.
You can stop right there. The majority of gamers don't think. That's the
well,
problem.
What I'm saying is, it applies to like physical media for movies and TV shows too. They'd rather pay a streaming service and watch all their content that way, when they could, after a while, you could get discount Blu-rays and,
Well, I mean, there's some sites that like sell entire collections of a TV show, like the Hercules, the old school Hercules and Xena Warrior Princess. Like, you can get all of Hercules, all of the seasons for like $45.
Yeah.
Right? Or you get all of Xena for $45. And they also have versions that are only $20, but it's like a remade version as opposed to like.
Well, I've got all the Shark movies, the TV series made of movies.
Yeah.
About 10 or 12 of them. I think I got them for $30.
Yeah, but it's like,
High
That's
definition
what
Blu-ray.
3 months of Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you could have entire series that you permanently own, preferably physical, because if you buy digital, it could go away at any time. People don't seem to understand this, and it
Well,
blows my
you got to
mind.
re-rip it. For advice out there for those of you who download content like that and want to keep it, you have to re-rip it to your own format to keep it. So
Yeah.
like,
Which is a
put
lot
it
of
into
work,
a-
so just buy it physical.
they make. I won't say here on your show, but they make tools to automate that stuff now.
You need to let me know because I need to automate that stuff. But yeah, tell me afterwards. But the purpose is that what you pay, like let's say you want to watch Suits, you could buy the entire series of Suits and probably pay a lot more than what you would to subscribe to it. But if they ever take it down, which I don't see them taking it down anytime soon, but if they ever do take it down, you lose out on it and it's just gone. No matter what amount of money you put into it, it's gone. And maybe you watch other things, but stream services are kind of going on the downhill because there's not really a whole lot. Like what they put into movies, like Netflix is probably the only one who's kind of making some money off of it. But for everything that the average streaming service puts into it in terms of like, we're going to make our own show or our own movie and it's going to cost $300 million for this, they're probably not making that $300 million back in subscriptions. They're probably not. So it's a losing battle. So at some point it's going to stop because they can't use a failing money plan, I guess, to keep it running. You cannot keep going in the negative in income and just keep producing more things. You have to go into profit at some point. And even if you go into profit with one or two things really, really well, you're still behind because of all the hundreds of other things that went negative. So ultimately, physical media rules because if the streaming services decide, one day, we're not going to do streaming anymore, we're going back to the theaters. Well, guess what? You're going to lose all that access to all that stuff. And then by that point, they probably already got rid of physical media. Because I think, ironically, connected to the Xbox Game Pass, they people were talking about new games that are coming out on Xbox Series X, and they're saying they're all download codes. None of them are on physical media. So you're having a download code, or you're getting a code on a cart, or like Switch would be a cart, but like on a disc, and you have to download it from the game. So you're not getting the physical copy of the game on a disc anymore. Apparently this is for Xbox exclusively as of so far. Apparently PlayStation still does, and Nintendo does to some extent, depending on the things. Nintendo, it's first party stuff that is on, with some exceptions to that. In terms of not like third party stuff might be on it, but PlayStation still has their stuff on disc as far as I'm aware, but Xbox seems to be pulling away from that. And I think the reason is because they're trying to do their handheld. And if they do their handheld, you're not sliding a disc in your handheld. You're just not. They're going to be all download, but it's going to be like Steam, but Steam actually is a good platform and actually cares about the consumer. Xbox has no care for you. They care explicitly for the money number. That's all they care about. So
pretty much,
I wouldn't. Where Gabe actually puts effort into Valve and is constantly fighting against big corporations, the AAA companies and whatnot, to make it so it's consumer friendly because he wants everybody to benefit. And I pray that his successor is following in his footsteps, because if not, Valve's in trouble. But if we manage to pull that off, Steam's going to be untouchable, because even though it's all digital, they're actually not going to be pulling stuff. And most of the stuff pulled off of Steam is either because of legal reasons.
Well, Steam has an advantage in that, like, I mean, you pay for stuff on Steam, but they have a huge category of free stuff as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like Vindictus.
Yeah.
But they have tons of free stuff you can play, so there's always something to play.
Steam runs on Linux, so if you can easily load your Linux, you can load Windows and load your Steam games on Linux.
They also have emulation stuff that will tie right into your Steam, so it works on both PC and a Steam Deck. Like there's tons of ways Steam is useful, but Steam actually, like if you're a developer, Steam actually puts effort into helping adjust and modify your game to fit the platform. Nobody else does that. Yes, they take a little bit more of a percentage cut of the dev, but they're not just taking the percentage and leaving you high and dry. They're actually putting effort into making it better for both the consumer and the dev to connect. And I think that's great. That's where you get the Steam Workshop, where you can put mods on things. Some games don't have that because the devs don't want that, but that's on the devs. It's not on Steam. There's community forums. There's a whole bunch of places you can stuff. Like I'm just turning into Steam fanboy, I guess. But it's a really good platform. And the only thing it's lacking at this point is the DRM-free stuff. If you had DRM-free games, boom, you'd blow everything out of the water, no questions asked. GOG has that over Steam. GOG is DRM-free, which I love, which is why I get my single-player games on GOG. But that's a different story. But I think because Xbox is removing their disc content because they want people to move to a digital only, aka the Xbox Series S or the S Plus, whatever the thing that was supposed to be like an X but digital only, which is a weird concept, but whatever. I think they're doing that for their Xbox handheld, because when it comes out, it's going to be digital only. If they keep selling discs, people aren't going to be able to play those discs, or they'll just keep buying X's that have disc drives, and then they'll just never buy the handheld. So I think that's what they're going with. Xbox is just stupid at this point, and I don't know. Like, I have an Xbox Series X that I play old games on. I don't even play the new stuff because none of the new stuff's enticing. None of it's good. I'll get it on PC or I'll get it on PlayStation, which is kind of sad because Sony's kind of trash too. Or I'll play a lot of Nintendo games. I don't care about Xbox's modern stuff because they don't care about the gamer. But that's a different story. But to continue this, this isn't good for gamers either, as you trade lower costs for not owning your games and having them subject to being taken away from you if you violate an ever-increasing totalitarian terms of service agreement, which I hate terms of services when it comes to them changing. Like, I understand a reasonable terms of service, but when they can just change them at their whim, and they can, like, you agreed to pay so much money and I agreed to give you this game. Sure. And then I'm going to change the terms of service now that I get to keep your money and I get to keep you from playing the game. It's bad PR one way, and it's also stupid in another way because the consumer's going to be like, okay, then I'm going to just tell people not to buy it. Well, too late. We already have your money. It's like, well, yes, but all your future titles, why would we go do that? But people, again, not all gamers are extremely intelligent because they'll just keep buying it because they don't care. And that's just perpetuating this mindset and everything that drives me nuts. If you're an indie dev, the small upfront fee is very tempting, but often a lifeline. But longer term is going to kill the smaller game devs. And then it points out The Outer Worlds 2 is an $80 game on PS5 as Xbox continues to push Game Pass. So basically, Outer Worlds is coming out on Game Pass, and then boom, you can have it for whatever the Xbox Live or Xbox Game Pass / Xbox Live is, or you can pay $80 on PlayStation. And so they're trying to say, well, it's cheaper. Well, it's technically not, because in the long term, it's going to cost you more. Some people might be able to sit down and beat the entire game for the $15-$20 that it costs, and then maybe play 5 or 6 games that are $80 a piece in that time period. But let's say you ever want to go back to it. You're still going to keep playing, you're going to keep paying, you're going to keep paying all the way down the subscription line, and it's never going to end because it's not designed to end. It's the same problem I have with Nintendo Switch Online, where they have all these emulations of GameCube, 64, Game Boy Advance, all that type of stuff, like the SNES, the NES, all that kind of stuff, because I want to have those physical copies of those games that are updated. And they're like, oh, well, we're going to put them on this. They put them on the Switch Online to push you to the Switch Online. Now, the only reason I have Switch Online is to play with my friends, as few as they are, and as rare as they often play, but it's to play with them and it's only $8 a year. That's cheap. $120 a year is not as cheap as $8 a year. Like, there's a massive difference. So I'm going to have more of an issue with a subscription fee that I get very little from versus $8. Because if I could say I can play Xbox Game Pass for $8 a year, I'd probably get it. They would make $0 from that, though, because everybody would be on it, but it wouldn't be enough to give a reasonable reason to keep putting these big games on there, because they wouldn't be making any money. But Nintendo's also been behind the curve on a lot of things, and that's been a boon in some ways and a negative in others, but either way. So, the last topic, let me pull this up. I'm not going to really play it, but I wanted to point this out real quick. Sorry. There we go. So, Borderlands 2. Smash JT has a whole video on this. I'm not going to play the video. Go watch on Smash JT's channel if you want to watch the whole thing. But essentially, they Take-Two/2K released Borderlands 2 for free on Steam. Now, I think I had it way before that, and after seeing this, I uninstalled it because I had it already installed. So, Take-Two, 2K updated their terms of service this year, banning mods and VPNs for their game, which is already questionable. Banning mods in a competitive format, I agree with, and Smash JT touches on this. VPNs doesn't make any sense unless they want your personal data, which again, Smash JT covers. Nobody should have rights to tell you if you can use a virtual private network or not, because there's legitimate reasons to have a VPN. You're muted or something, Matt, just FYI. I can't hear you. Are you changing mics? I don't know. Oh, I guess he's coming back after he fixes that up. So I'll see what we can do. But if somebody's trying to get your information, they don't want you using a VPN because they want to get all your information. Why these companies need access to your information, I'll never know, because there's limited information you need to know for certain reasons, like accounts through Google or whatever, but they should all be limited. Welcome back, good sir.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Thank you. So what were you saying?
Yeah. So I was saying, is this game available in China?
I'm pretty sure it's been around for a hot minute, so probably.
Okay. So, a couple of things to decompress from here, and I'll put it. Hold on, mute. Alexa's talking.
Alexa likes to talk.
Okay, she gave me the weather.
And today's weather, it's weather outside. Thanks, Alexa.
To subvert the Chinese government, Chinese dissidents use video game chat now, right? And they'll use VPNs to make it harder for the Chinese to pick them up, to circumvent the Great Firewall and all that, right? So one reason for this game to be against VPNs would be if China, remember, China is your second biggest market for everything now, okay? Would be if the Chinese government saying, look, we're not going to let your game inside our country, and therefore you'll have to do 1 billion consumers if you don't ban VPNs. Right?
I mean, to be fair, though,
So
they're giving away a game for free, so I don't know how much that really helps in terms of consumers.
Well, no, but the Chinese government, they
Well,
have,
I get the Chinese government aspect thing. Like, I dislike the Chinese government greatly for their oppressive behaviors. But
I agree, but the point I'm making is they have the most locked out internet in the world. Okay,
yeah,
and
I get it. Yeah, I understand that. But what I'm saying is that if this was the case and China was doing this, wouldn't every single publisher and every single developer have this terms of service change? Not just these guys? For this particular game for some reason?
It might be coming.
Okay, well, maybe. It might be. But why Borderlands 2, of all things? Like, there's so many games that people could be playing, and when you have 1 billion people in your country, let's say only 10% of them even play games or whatever. Like, even if 10% of them were playing games, how many of those are playing Borderlands 2 as opposed to all the newer stuff or the fancier stuff or whatever the case might be or whatever was considered more fun? Like Fortnite, for example. More people play Fortnite than Borderlands 2. No questions about that. So would we not see this about Fortnite instead? Because, you know, they do Epic Game stuff as well.
As Fortnite come up, though, I mean, it might be the next version of Fortnite that does the same thing.
Maybe. And again, if that happens, that happens. But they also have full rights to collect your voice, location, gameplay, and internet activity data. I can understand the CP or the CCP. I almost said CPC. The CCP. I can understand them doing that. But what I would disagree is that more developers have done, like, if this was a problem specifically for the Chinese market, they would make 2 versions of the game. Like, they would split the code, and then they would make a modified version specifically for that market, and the rest of it would be for the rest of the world. This has happened before in games. It's not uncommon.
Look, like I said,
the only thing I say, if the company agrees with this, and they're like, "Oh, we can make money off of your private data, and we can scour your computer through this terms of services."
A lot of these corporations are owned by leftists now, so they don't agree with this.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I totally understand it, because they think they can make money off of it, or maybe they can make money off of it. Maybe they don't think it. Maybe they know it. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that for someone to utilize this to their benefit, they wouldn't have to. The thing is America's privacy laws are terrible, like absolutely terrible compared to some other.
They're fine.
They're not, because these terms of services should not have access to the stuff. You cannot terms of service your way into certain things, because if terms of service. So if the terms of service says, if you play our game, you are verifiably our slave for life, and we can do whatever we want to you.
Well, no, because you can't enslave people.
What?
Slavery is against the Constitution, bro.
That's my point, is if you have a law saying your privacy is above all else, then none of this happens. Like, literally none of it. It just disappears.
What if no one ever produces a game because of that?
I'd be fine. We have a backlog for a long, long time that I don't have to worry about that. But the thing is that that's me saying, don't you care about the video game industry more than my privacy? No. No, I don't.
This is a private company. If they want to put this in a term of service,
sure. And people will choose not to play it because of that. Maybe not a lot of them, but there will be people who do.
That's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that if this becomes a slippery slope when it comes to legal proceedings. Because if they can access whatever they want on your computer, because that's part of the terms of service for this, and again,
by your agreement.
Well, yes, but how many people actually read the terms of service? How many people verbally give their consent to something, as opposed to it just being this long thing? Because if you put 1 million pages in front of somebody's face, not a single person is reading that. Not a single one.
Because stupid people use guns. Do we ban guns?
That's literally an inherent right. You can't not have access to guns. At least in terms of America specifically, we have a Second Amendment.
You could change the Constitution and do it. What
if the terms of service says, "Hey, you have to turn your guns in to play our game"? The thing would be no, that's illegal. You can't do that. So your terms of service does not rule all. It rules all within the bounds of whatever legality is.
What they could say though is, if you appear to be using guns, we're going to ban you from the game. They'll have to do that.
The game with guns in it, yes.
The point I'm making is they're a private entity.
I'm saying if they want to do something where they want to kick you out because they saw a social media post, or you put a screenshot of yourself with holding your game, and in the background there's a gun and an American flag or something, and they don't like it, that's banning. That's whatever. That's its own thing, because they are a private company. But terms of servicing after you purchased a game, that's a huge crime for me. I hate terms of service changing. Like, terms of service, once they're put into place, when the product is created, that's stuck there until that product is gone forever. And if you have a digital physical version, I
agree with you that changing the terms of service after you purchase something should be illegal. Okay?
Yeah.
However,
totally.
Producing a new version of the game with the new terms of service, I'm fine with, even though I would just never buy it.
Well, my thing is that it should already be on the books a legal problem to, like, if somebody breaks your privacy and goes into your computer illegally and steals your data, that's
but they're not doing it illegally.
Let me finish. If they break into your house, or like internet hack your computer or something, and they find all your private data, that would be considered illegal.
Yes.
But if they bring it into TOS that nobody reads, so nobody can actually consent to it, and then, like,
because they don't read it is not it doesn't make it illegal.
It doesn't make it consent.
It does.
No.
Again, you have an obligation to read.
You don't have an obligation to read it.
You have an ethical obligation to read any contract you enter into.
But if I go into something under the, if I like, let's say the terms of service pops up and it says, do you agree to the terms of service? If I'm going in saying, I understand that the terms of service is not going to screw me over, I'm consenting that it's not going to screw me over. But if the terms of service is designed to screw me over, I'm not consenting to it to screw me over.
Then don't sign it.
I know, but I'm saying people go in expecting the terms of service to be a legal jargon, nonsensical mess of things that terms they're not going to understand. Because even if you read it, you're not going to understand
So they're stupid. So you're saying because they're stupid.
Most people are stupid. If I use big words and I hand
And
you a
there's nothing
document
wrong
and
with
I
that.
have you sign away everything you own to
There's
me,
nothing wrong with that. We need
There
people to be
is.
janited. We need people to be eaten by bears. We need those people.
there's plenty of other bears in the world to actually do that from a legal perspective. You don't need to like trick people into.
cannot-
Can you
we
trick
cannot
somebody
make a
into consent?
system-
Can you trick somebody into
No.
consent?
Did you ever see the movie Idiocracy?
I've seen clips. I have not seen the whole thing now.
That Idiocracy is a result of the world you want, where they made the laws to coddle all the stupid people, and the entire world became stupid.
I'm not saying to counter all the stupid people. People are going to be
No, not
stupid no matter
counter,
what. They're going to
coddle.
walk in front of
The word
cars.
I was
They're not gonna
Coddle. The word I'm using is coddle.
But
C-O-D-D-L.
it's not a coddle to say I'm going to do my job as the government, as one of the few things I'm supposed to actually do, which is protect the citizens from aggression. And it's aggression, not physical aggression necessarily, but it is aggression from somebody to say, I'm going to force my way into your world through a terms of service that you can't understand because not everybody is a freaking lawyer. There are probably some lawyers that can't even understand the verbal jargon that they put in these things because it's just nonsense. It's the same reason they put it should be illegal to put 1,000 pages into Congress after only 2 days, where you're not able to read all that, let alone understand it or remember what you
That's
read.
a separate issue.
I know, but I'm saying, but that's the same thing. That's them pushing it through the terms of service through Congress. Congress doesn't know what they're freaking doing. They're just told the breakdown.
That's a separate issue. Let's not.
I know. I'm not trying to do the political thing. I'm saying that's the equivalent of a terms and service agreement. Is to saying, here's 1,000 pages. Do you want to play and have fun or whatever? And people, on average, are going, I want to play and have fun. And then they hit, I agree to the terms of services. Not because they understand it, not because they consent to it in terms of understanding, because consent requires understanding. You cannot consent to something you don't understand. That's why we don't let people under 18 do
then they
things
need
that
to
require
read.
consent.
You cannot protect people from not reading this document. If we do that, we're going to make more stupid people.
I understand that, but I'm not trying to reward stupid people. What I'm saying is that there are things that are illegal and unethical.
This is not one of them.
I mean, they changed the term of service after they purchased it, so technically speaking, yes.
No. We're talking about terms of service that the term. We agree that a term after the fact is wrong. So let's leave that aside. We're talking about whether a term of service can include access to your
Is
stuff
it
like this.
illegal to collect private data and turn around and sell it, regardless of how you get it?
No, it's not illegal.
It's not?
People do it all the time.
No, I'm saying if I have something, like I have private data, private information on my computer or on my phone, on a server, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
And they're saying, I have full access to your computer, whether it be through root or otherwise. And they go through outside of their product and they gather all this information and take this stuff.
Did you consent to that?
No, because I have no understanding of it.
Then it's illegal. But if no,
That's
not
my
no
point.
understanding.
Consent
Did you sign a piece
requires
of paper?
understanding. You can't consent
Did you
to something
sign
you
an
don't
agreement?
understand.
Did you agree to an agreement that let them do that?
Well, if that's the case, then you can agree to be put into slavery because you
cannot
signed an
agree
agreement.
You cannot agree to put into slavery.
Then it's
Because
signing an
slavery is
agreement.
unconstitutional.
So, invading my privacy is okay because it's not.
You can consent to have your privacy invaded.
Then
yes.
you should be able to consent to slavery.
You cannot because the 14th Amendment bars slavery.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Is this should be the same thing? Are you
No, it's
coddling?
not because
are
there
you
is no right to
coddling
privacy.
people?
But there is no right to privacy explicitly in the U.S. Constitution for
There was
justifiable
no
reasons.
initial right to no slavery in the Constitution either. It was amendment. They had to change it at some point.
Yes, and they're not going to change it because, as pointed out by many Supreme Court justices in the past, if you put an absolute right to privacy in the Constitution, it will eventually make the government ungovernable.
Oh, that's a good thing usually. But I'm talking
Well,
about
it's never a good thing.
No. So if I can sign away through consent of something that I don't understand, and you
So
prevent me from
long as you
doing
are not
so.
signing away of something you have a right to. Like you can agree.
Well, it wasn't
You can
in here,
agree to
right?
obey that right, meaning, for example, you have a right to be married, right? So you can agree to not be married for 3
That
years.
shouldn't be a right, though. That's not something the government should be involved with, period. The
It's in
government
the
should
First
never have
Amendment.
been involved with
It's in the
marriage.
First Amendment.
No. Free speech is one thing. But
There are more things in the First Amendment than free speech.
I understand this, but I'm saying that the concept, there are things that should not be touched by the government, and that's most
There are
things.
multiple places in the First Amendment that cover marriage.
Sure.
Freedom of association, freedom of expression, freedom of religion.
Sure.
Okay? You cannot sign away a right of yours. That's something in the Constitution. You can't sign that away under a contract. It's automatically void. You can, however,
But
for a
that's
limited
coddling people.
term-
That's my point. That's literally coddling. You said you shouldn't coddle people. That's coddling. That's literally coddling. I'm saying extend that coddling.
Not coddling.
It is. Because you're
It
saying
is
you
not.
can't do this. You don't have the freedom nor the right to sign away those rights that you have.
For unlimited time period.
Yes. This is an unlimited time period terms of service until they change it again. But my point is,
again,
is
there's
that
nothing but there's nothing in this agreement that is unconstitutional.
that's my point. I'm saying make it unconstitutional.
I disagree there. The more crap you put into the Constitution, the more unwieldy a document it becomes.
And there's a lot of things in the Constitution that probably shouldn't be there because they do harm to the overall
There's
of the
almost
country.
the right amount of stuff that's in there.
Almost is a very strong word, good sir.
The U.S. Constitution produced the greatest, most powerful, most successful nation in the history of the universe, so that we know of. And
it doesn't follow it 90% of the time, but yes, I understand.
So the document, by weight of existence, is successful.
If the government can dip its toes into your marriage, which is a privacy thing, I might add, then why can't they dip it into keeping from a corporation or a company of any type from doing the same thing?
The government can't actually dip their toes into your marriage.
They literally, that's what I'm saying, is that there's a protection there, so they can't, like, this is something you can't touch because the amendment says so. The Constitution says you can't touch this. Why is privacy not one of those things? Because if we got rid of all the privacy issues and you couldn't have these kinds of terms of services, personally, I think the world would be better off.
No. See, the thing is, privacy is not a singular issue. It covers a million different things, and it's resolved of who's private. How do you resolve? If you make an absolute right to privacy, right? How do you resolve conflicts between right to privacy? You can't. That's why
you would grade the privacy. So, for example, the terms of service.
You're already ruining your own effort.
No. I'm saying there's a privacy because there's a blanket privacy, which is like your personal address, all your work, your social security, all that kind of stuff. Because people aren't like, can I sign a terms of service where they have access to my social security when it has nothing to do with what I'm purchasing? Because that's supposed to be something that's super secret and they're not allowed to have access to.
No, they're not supposed to be super. It's a public. Your social security number is public information.
That's why they tell you not to tell people what your social security number is. Yes, exactly.
That's idiocy. You can log on social security administration and get anyone's social security number right now.
And I'm sure it probably logs who's doing what, when, where, why, and how. So if something goes sideways,
regardless,
there you
the
go.
point is, it's public information. Okay.
Sure.
The
number is public, but all the information behind that number is probably not public.
The only thing behind your social security number is your name,
which is a lot of information. Because you get that name and you can add more to that from a different.
The government itself sells that information,
which should be illegal.
No, it's not, because it's nothing. Now so you understand. People understand. I worked in HR at one point. There are laws governing the use of the social security number for non-governmental purposes, like. For example, you're not supposed to use social security number as an employee ID in a private corporation. That's barred by it bars the corporation from doing it.
But I would call that coddling.
It's not coddling because
why can't people ruin their lives by consenting their way? That's my point.
That's not what coddling is. Coddling is when you protect stupid people from the consequences of their own action.
That's what I'm saying. Why should we protect people from just blabbing their social security out to everybody and let everybody just take over their identity through the government?
You don't.
You literally just said you're not allowed to do that through private corporations.
No. Again, you're not. as a corporation, you cannot use Social Security number as the ID number.
I would agree that if somebody self-doxes themselves like DSP does, where he's like, here's my address and blah, 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 you guys already know what my stuff is anyway, and it screws him over in some other ways, that shouldn't be illegal because he publicly did it himself. It's already public knowledge. A terms of service accessing your computer is not public knowledge. What's on your computer is not public knowledge.
Then read it and don't agree to it.
And if I don't understand it, but I hit yes because I think I understand it.
But why are you hitting yes if you don't understand it?
Because I might not know that I don't understand it. That's the thing about law speech, is that it doesn't always make sense. Or
then you have an
multiple meanings.
obligation to learn to do. I can't. I taught myself this stuff.
Can
You
you,
have an obligation
afford
to
to
learn this
hire a
stuff.
lawyer every single time a terms of service comes out?
You don't
and it
have
needs
to
some-
anymore.
What do you mean you don't have to? Of
But
course
there
you
are a
have
million free lawyers on YouTube who break this stuff down.
to. But if there's a topic they don't cover, then there's nothing there to tell you.
There's
That's
a
what- and
million
even
free
then,
lawyers.
they're going to come out and say, this is not legal advice, because they have to say that, even if they
There
are
are
a lawyer.
literally lawyers. Here's an idea. There's a lawyer, for example, who analyzes the legal issues of role-playing games. And you can find tons of videos of him doing that.
Sure.
You know,
That's I'm not saying that's not good or that shouldn't be allowed or whatever. What I'm saying is that even when they do that, they say this is not legal advice because they can't, because they can get hit
but
for
that's not the point. You keep jumping on the point. They still explain the thing to you so you understand it.
Well, maybe they do. But if their interpretation is wrong, because there are lawyers who disagree with other lawyers about stuff.
So you see more than one of them.
Okay, and if there's two people with two differing things, and one of them's okay
You
and one of
find-
them's not okay,
Then you find a
which one do I
third
do?
person.
And if they're agreeing with the one, but it's actually the wrong interpretation, you're still going to be
Well,
held
you find a
accountable for
fourth
it by
person.
consenting.
You get
But
you
you
get
don't know. That doesn't mean you know what the right answer is. That just means you have more people saying the wrong thing. That doesn't tell you what's correct. That tells you what people think. That's
Again,
that's
you
not helpful, because again,
at some
consent
point-
is required, and in order to do consent, you have to fully understand something. If I cannot fully understand something because of technical jargon, law speech, whatever you want to call it, I cannot actually consent to something. Otherwise, it'd be super easy to free somebody of all their living goods, their house, their property, everything.
No, it would not, because there are rules governing that sort of thing.
But there's
you can't
not
sign a-
covering in this stuff. That's my point. They're saying because it's not physical stuff, it's data, which is digital on somebody's computer, it's not covered under property. I would argue it is property, whether it's digital or physical. That's what I'm saying.
But that's not what they're not saying. What they're saying is, when you agree to this consent agreement, this whatever, use terms of service, you agree to allow us to go into your PC and pull data. Okay. Now,
Which, if it was
I've seen that-
explicitly related to the game and does not go beyond the game, nobody would probably have any problems with that. They're like, oh, they want to collect leaderboard information, or they want to do that, blah, 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 and it was limited, sure. But it's the same issue I have with Denuvo, where Denuvo tries to root onto your computer, and it slows down your whole computer. It ruins the gameplay experience because they don't want pirating. Pirating will happen regardless, because eventually it'll get cracked, and eventually people will pirate your game. So fighting that by punishing everybody else is not good. But if I don't want Denuvo, I typically don't buy the game because I know it's there. But I don't always know it's there. I don't sometimes know that it's there until after it's been put on my computer, and then I have either a really hard time removing it, or I can't remove it because I don't know how to remove it. That's going to be the average thought process of a person has it. Like when they did a Tuesday Night Main Event, and X-Wing found out that, I think it was Doom Dark Ages or whatever, has Denuvo on it. And he deleted the game after he found out it had Denuvo. And they're like, it's already too late. You've already put Denuvo on your computer, because he freaked out about it because he didn't want that. He did not consent to it because he didn't realize it was even on the game. Not all this stuff
in that
is
case,
just
you
put
got
on
to
the
have
front.
a backup and restore system so you could restore your PC.
There's like
you know.
apparently 15 different ways you could potentially deal with it, and I don't know all of them because I'm not that kind of a tech savvy person, but I have friends that do that, so if I want to, I'll just ask them to help me out with it, and they usually do. But in terms of the average person, they don't have that access, and they don't always know that Denuvo's on it. And then once it's on, you're toast, because most of the average consumer on a PC cannot, by definition, have the information to
But then
deal with
here's
that, because
the
they don't
thing.
all go to
If
tech
they
school.
if they don't suffer from the consequences of their stupidity, they will never
It's
stop
not
being
stupidity,
stupid.
though. And they're not going to stop
It
being
is
stupid
stupidity.
anyway. They're stupid. That's
Yeah,
not how
well,
that
and then
works.
those who continue to be stupid will be eaten by bears, killed by drug users.
Everybody is stupid in some capacity. The smartest person on the planet can be really stupid in another area that they're not smart
this
in.
type of stupid. Not this type of stupid.
Well, I agree that there's a lot of normie stupidity going on, but guess what? There are some normies who aren't actually stupid. They just don't care about a particular topic or whatever. Because there's a lot of people saying, I don't care if they have access to the information.
Care, that's different. If they don't care, then it's not. Then I don't care about their privacy.
Yes, but I'm saying for gamers, people like me who play lots and lots of games and enjoy those games, and we're, from my perspective, we are purchasing the game. We're not renting. We're not leasing. We're not doing that nonsense.
I agree with you.
We're purchasing. I want to be able to be aware of what exactly I'm purchasing, but not always is that an option. Because, again, when Doom Dark Ages came out, yet not everybody knew that Denuvo was on there. And before people know it, they've downloaded the game, they have Denuvo on their computer, and they had no idea. That's not a stupid thing. That's not a, you're just not informed. Blah, 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 blah. Like, that's not a survival of the fittest nonsense. That is a, we didn't know because it wasn't particularly advertised. By the way, buy our game, get Denuvo and Doom Dark Ages together. I don't know. I didn't buy it. I don't have it. I have no idea. But my point is that there are people like X-Wing 5 that didn't know it was on there. And guess what? It freaked him out and he wanted to uninstall it, but it doesn't uninstall Denuvo when you uninstall it. That's the problem. There are things, it's overreach by the companies that are doing things, and it should not be that way.
There. That's all. We're talking specifically about these terms of service, right? Is the Denuvo thing, was it in the terms of service of Doom Dark Ages? If it wasn't, then you sue them over it.
I would assume it's in there. It's my thought process.
And you did not read through that term of service, I have no sympathy for you.
Did you read every terms of service of every game you play? Or do you just not play games?
I read the food labels for every food I buy.
The food labels don't have all the information on them. They're not required to have it.
You know the giant inserts you get for when you buy a new bottle of asprin? I read it every single time. I don't buy aspirin,
so I don't know, but yeah.
I read every single time.
Yes, but the information you're reading is only what the FDA requires, not what is all included.
And I do further research. I make it a point to know everything
that's pounding you in the
can.
brain might kill you before you finish reading those things, because some of that stuff is ridiculous.
I mean, my memory isn't 100% photographic anymore.
I'm not talking your memory. I'm talking like the headache just pounds so hard that you're just like, I don't care. Give me the aspirin because I need to make this relief show up.
I'll suck it up on the app until I get my research done.
Maybe. There are just thousands of ways you could possibly come up with that, and that's cool if you can pull that off. Not everybody has that leisure. Not everybody has that. So a company coming in and taking advantage. If every single person, like, it's the same concept with, should video games become $80? Well, one person does it, so everybody else can be like, you know what, our game should be $80 too. And then eventually somebody says, well, our game should be $90. So that everybody, it keeps going up and up. Soon games are going to be $500 a freaking game because everybody everywhere decided to pay that. Because that's just normies being stupid. But the reason it happens is because the companies know they can get away with it.
That's a separate issue. That's a separate issue.
No. I'm talking about what companies can get away with based upon the majority of people who don't do something. The reason they can get access to your computer, the reason they can collect your data, is because a majority of people don't pay attention to this. Even if you pay attention, all that's going to happen is eventually every company is going to be this way, and you'll not be able to enjoy anything that's new. Because every single terms of service is going to be like, sign your life away here to play our game.
But as we have seen in real life, when with woke stuff, boycotting these companies works. They eventually change their behavior.
But unfortunately, Xbox and Sony are still charging ridiculous amounts of stuff for their subscription fees.
Well, Sony is Japanese. They don't care. They don't care about.
Well, there's Sony America and Sony Japan, so that they're a little bit.
It's still ruled by the Japanese company.
Yeah, but they get overruled by Sony America sometimes. That's why Sony America exists.
In most things that matter, they don't.
Maybe they're stupid.
And Xbox is run by the closest thing to a fascist government on the planet right now.
Yeah, Microsoft's kind of stupid.
You know, it actually got worse when Bill Gates left.
I'm just saying that if you limit a company's access to things by saying you can collect data, you can collect all this stuff in your terms of services for any file that is related to this game. Go for it. Whatever. Players
I don't want to say
players can
What I
understand
want
that.
to say is, I was
No, I'm saying
saying
if you're going to allow the collection of data, it has to be limited explicitly to the files that they give you, and any content. Like if you go hunt down a particular build in your game and they want to collect the data for that, so they can know how many people play that build, whatever. That's one thing. That's a non-issue in my opinion. It might be annoying because it might slow the game down or whatever, and I don't like that. But that's a non-issue compared to them having complete and utter free access to everything non-game related, so they can turn around and sell your information to somebody else when I did not consent for my stuff being sold. Oh wait, they threw it in a random 5 billion page terms of service that I don't really have realistic time to just
well, there
read
should
that.
be.
Because
Here's what
I would
would say,
spend my entire life reading nothing but terms of services if that was the case. Because all they have to do is make every terms of service ridiculously, ungodly long, and then they could just do whatever they want. That's unethical
I would
because it's
support
sneaky
law
and backwards.
saying that terms of service must clearly delineate certain things
It's
in the beginning
It's
and
the
so
same
forth.
reason that Congress should have one-page law topics. That's the same reason. Keep it
But
simple, keep it
the
clear.
government's too complicated for that. It's not. What people
It's
realize
not really
is
that complicated. It's pretty
every
straightforward.
congressman has a team of about 200 lawyers who read through that document for him.
Yeah, and every congressman's trying to make money off of their constituents. Yes, I'm aware. But my
Everyone's
point,
trying to make money off. Everyone follows a profit motive. That's biology. So you can ignore
well,
that.
I mean, not necessarily. There are people who don't. They are not motivated by profit.
There are only
but they're
two
very
things that
smooth,
motivate you as a
very few.
biological organism: one, positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement.
I don't know how to
The
deal with
positive
positive
reinforcement is
reinforcement.
a profit motive.
I don't have it. Like I get complicated. I get complimented by my coworkers on almost every single day. I don't know how to respond to it. Say, sure, cool, okay, whatever. Like I don't know how to do it.
Again,
But that's a different story.
regardless, as a biological organism, there are only two things that motivate you. Only two things: a positive or a negative. That's it. Positive reinforcement, negative.
Well, I mean, most
That's
people would say
inside.
I want positives. They don't want negatives. But that's not necessarily the only thing that motivates you.
There are
some-
only two things.
Sometimes
Everything is one or the other.
sometimes doing the right thing is not a positive in terms of an overarching positive.
I'm not giving you moral. I'm talking about
I'm
either something pushes you because it causes you pain.
Well,
That's negative
the-
reinforcement.
But
or
some
pushing
people
because it gives you a pleasure
recognize
spot.
pain, like exercising, as a good positive on the outside, but immediately is negative because it hurts. That's normal. Working out can hurt, and it's supposed to hurt because that's how you build muscle, that's how you burn fat, that's how you get healthy, whatever the case might be, as long as you have a diet that matches it. But the long-term positive is that you have a healthier body.
Again,
you can
you're
do
not.
more.
You're overcomplicating this.
I
There are
overcomplicate
only two
everything
things that
because that's how
motivate
things
a
work.
biological organism to do anything. Okay,
Or not doing it.
either something that is punitive in nature or something that is rewarding in nature.
I'm
Negative or
agreeing with you
positive.
to a certain extent, but I'm saying it's not just as simple as that. Like it's a much more
It
complicated
is
overall.
as simple as that. People overplay human nature. Like you can.
Like
You can.
me,
I mean,
because I'm not motivated by things like that the same way as
you
everybody else.
are. They're just different for you.
Yes, but like I'm saying, I would rather suffer short term to enjoy more positive outcomes in the long term. Most
So-
people don't do that. So I recognize I'm in the minority in that department, and I'm okay with that. That's whatever.
So
My-
you get driven more by negative reinforcement. That's all. Nothing big.
I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not driven by that. I'm driven by my own preferences.
Which either go to be negative reinforcement or positive reinforcement.
They
There's
may be
nothing
in
else.
those categories, but I'm not driven by those categories.
Driven means motivated to
Yeah,
do more
I'm
than
saying I'm not motivated by the positivity or negativity of something in a category. I am motivated by what I want to do. My personal preference on if I want to
At
do
a
something that might be
primordial
positive or
level-
negative. I'm
at
not
a
a
primordial
primordial
level,
level person. I am a
as an
individualistic
animal,
person.
every stimulus you receive
Woof.
is categorized in one of two ways: as negative reinforcement or positive reinforcement. That's how your animal brain interprets them. Now we have complicated brains and God-given spirit that layer stuff on top of
You
that.
just blow that out there. Now we're complicated. It's like, yes, my point is we're complicated.
The point is, everything that motivates you or me is going to either trigger a positive or negative. It's going to motivate because it triggers a positive or a negative reinforcement. And now some of those can be very simple, like see food, eat hungry. Some can be very complicated, like oh my god, I love my mom, I don't want you to die, or
C-spot
whatever.
run.
But this is just simple biology. People
And
go crazy about this
I'm
stuff.
not disagreeing that some people can be like completely motivated on their baser instincts. I'm just saying I'm not a person who's just purely motivated off of my base instincts.
No. You keep your. I'm not talking about your base instincts.
My
talking
primordial
about
essence, my
Your
negative or
brain
positive
receives
reinforcement.
stimuli, right? You understand that?
Sometimes.
Always. Your brain's constantly
No,
receiving
I would say
stimuli.
sometimes because there are things like the pituitary gland that don't always work, but that's a different story.
Your brain, the computer your brain is always
How something
receiving
is
stimuli.
supposed to work and how things actually work are not always aligned 100%.
Your brain either works or doesn't work. If your brain
Your
didn't work,
brain
you would
can
not be.
work, but your brain can say, "Hey, pituitary gland, send hormones to this particular area of your body," and the pituitary gland says,
And do you know
"Send
why it does that?
reinforcements," and sometimes
Because
it
it
doesn't.
receives a stimuli that causes that.
And I'm
that
saying
stimuli is
that order might not make it to the place it's supposed to. If it says, "Hey, send this hormone to your knee so it prevents this pain from existing," it might not do that.
The
So
fact that it
your brain
doesn't work correctly.
activating doesn't mean the rest of your body is going to operate the same way, and therefore it is essentially not operating as it's supposed to.
But if your brain doesn't activate at all, your body won't work, right?
I mean, that's the majority of the population of the planet, but yes.
So in order for your brain to activate, it needs to receive a stimuli.
Sure.
Those stimuli are interpreted by your brain as either a positive reinforcement or a negative
Yes, but
reinforcement.
if we're talking like, "Hey, don't stick your hand on hot top stove," then yeah, but people still do it.
Because some people are trained badly or are stupid.
Yes. And
But
if
the
we
brain still
killed
receives a
off
stimuli.
every stupid person on the planet, we would have very few humans in existence. We'd become a very dangerously close to extinction.
Again, you keep drifting from the point, okay? It's just something complicated. Everything that motivates you, whether it's a simple thing or a complicated thing, your brain, when it takes it in, interprets it either as negative reinforcement or positive reinforcement. Everything.
Maybe.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's pure, wonderful nature.
I'm saying maybe because everybody has their different motivations. They might be the same, they might be different. Most people, I would agree,
They may be different, but the brain, when they take a stimuli in, it's either going to be a negative, meaning something that motivates you by fear of pain or whatever, or positive, where it triggers off of your feeling good about doing it.
Usually it's if pain, then stop. That's the typical. If pleasure, then continue. That's the typical brain stuff. But I would say that's base biology. But there are some things that you counter to that, like exercise. Sometimes pain is good long term, and therefore you choose pain for long-term pleasure.
You've been trained to interpret it that way.
No, you've been trained to override your base instincts for a better outcome.
You've been trained to interpret the pain, the stimuli of pain, in a positive way.
No. People who feel pain don't want to feel pain, necessarily speaking. Not just because you feel pain and you continue does not make you a masochist.
It has nothing to do with wanting to do it. It has to do with the motivation of doing anything.
But biologically, according to your calculations, or what you've observed from other people making their own calculations or whatever,
according to biological
if I
science,
feel pain, I should stop.
No.
Yes. Because that's what pain is. Pain is saying, your body's saying, stop doing this. It hurts.
No, pain is saying it hurts. Doesn't necessarily mean to stop.
It's the notification. It's the announcement. It's the thing that pops up on your phone and says, "Hey, what you're doing is stupid. Stop doing that." That's what it is. That's what pain is. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a bad thing. But if you don't feel pain, like those people who have their pain sensors are like all turned off or something, they can keep their hand on that stove literally indefinitely. But it's horrible outcome.
You keep focusing on the wrong thing.
It's all biology is all I'm mentioning. It's all pain or pleasure.
So
it's biological.
You're talking about
sensors.
what people actually do. So what your brain, in order for your brain to cause your body to do anything, it must receive a stimuli. Okay?
Sure. And you're saying that the stimuli is always correct and never could be wrong?
has nothing to do with correct or incorrect. The stimuli comes
I mean,
in.
it does,
your
because
brain-
it'll create and generate a different way of thinking or a different
again,
way
it's
of acting.
irrelevant. Again, what it does is irrelevant. The fact that it comes in, right? Your brain's going to react to the stimuli. And the first thing is going to be to respond or don't respond. Okay, like for example, there's air hitting me now as it moves around the room. I'm not going to respond to that because I've been trained to not respond to that, right?
How would you respond to that? You can't.
Do you ever see little kids waving their hands over HVAC ducts or anything?
Not really, mostly because they can't reach them usually.
They're on the floor.
Well, some houses are built differently, but no, my kid
Well,
never does that.
We used to find it funny with pieces of paper over the HVAC duct and all that sort of stuff. Anyway,
I mean, like the little fans where people go in the fan. Yeah, sure.
the point
Whatever.
is, once that stimulus comes into your brain,
That's not a positive or a
okay.
negative, though.
it's well, just bear with me. It's going to trigger your brain had pre-recorded. You have some pre-recorded and some learned, right? And it's going to say this stimuli, is it likely to cause me some sort of discomfort or pain, or is it likely to cause me the feeling of pleasure? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the pain, if it's likely to cause you pain or discomfort,
What if it's likely to make you intrigued, but neither pleasure nor pain?
that's a higher level of brain functionality. We're not there yet.
I mean, we don't need to get there. That's way off topic.
The stimuli has to trigger you being curious about it.
Overall, try to pull us back on topic. Overall, I'm saying if you have some things that are protected because we have to protect stupid people and protect from bad what's the term?
Bad
actors. Thank you. I was thinking at the same time, I'd get there eventually. If we can protect people from being stupid or from bad actors, when bad actors come onto the scene on something else, can we not limit them with a privacy law saying you don't just have free reign on someone's life because they hit a yes button, just like you don't have free reign to enslave them by pushing a button. If they can't sign away their life freely of their own volition, then you can't sign away their life through a consent form that they can't consent because they don't understand what they're reading. And if you don't provide them the proper context in a layman's terms, I mean, if you want to give them a difficult law speech and then provide a simple layman's term on top of that, like basically what this post was about, if you add that on top of it and then people can read it and say, oh, okay, I do or don't want that, and it's like a one-page thing, that's one thing. But if you're going in there and saying, we want access to everything you have, unlimited, without question, or like in the term like Roku TV saying we have complete access to brick your system or whatever, or force you to do whatever we want, you can't modify your TV, you can't do anything, so we're gonna collect all your data no matter what you want regardless, and they changed it afterwards, of course, obviously, but they have control over the device that they sold you, which is no longer theirs because you purchased it, it's in your house. They'd be like coming into your house and hitting it with a sledgehammer. You shouldn't be able to do that. There are things that we should be protected from by the government from bad actors. If a company comes up with this kind of a terms of service, that's a bad actor. There's no ifs, ands, or buts because it's beyond what is necessary. What is necessary is game files are ours because it's our product. We're selling the overall product to you, but you can't just, by definition, go in and sell, remake, whatever you want. Now you could mod things, but in a competitive format you'd have protection, or in a pirate format you'd have protection, but you don't have to invade other people's privacy in order to do this. You can limit to the game files. They'll find a way around it no matter what. I mean, if a person who can create pirated software by taking someone's software, cracking it or whatever, they can remove Denuvo from their computers without issue. They already have a setup literally on a rig designed to do that. They'll get through it eventually. It's bound to happen. But you're punishing the rest of everybody else for something that's not going to affect it very much. And piracy on days of release is very, very minimal compared to those who pay for it. So you're behaving, not you, but like the company is behaving in a way that they're like, oh, we got to stop piracy because that's a huge problem. It's like, it's really not that big of a problem. You're expecting it to be, but the more you fight piracy, the more it's going to become. Because now when Denuvo is put out, now people are going to be looking for piracy because it's going to be free of Denuvo, and then they don't have to worry about it screwing with their systems. That kind of stuff. So it's the bad actor coming in and saying, I have rights to all your stuff if you hit yes. And the person saying, I don't understand all this jargon. And if I have to read a terms of service for every little detail of my life, I would never stop reading terms of service. I wouldn't be able to go to work. I wouldn't be able to freaking eat. I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'd have to just nonstop for the rest of my life read terms of services. That's not an existence. That's less than existence at that point. Because now you're bound to the whims of somebody else just speaking
like
jargon.
You have too many terms of service in your life.
No, I have a problem with people thinking they own more of my life than I do.
I don't dispute some of the concepts. I'm just saying.
I mean, we both agree that terms of service should not be changed once something is purchased.
Yes, we are in 100% agreement.
Like once something has been released, terms of service should not be changed. My thing is, if it's not something simplified accurately down to the layman's level, to let people know you will get this de novo thing, which will root on your computer, which will slow you down, which will screw with all your stuff, and we're also going to get root access to all your information and everything that you possibly have under the sun. By the way, we're also going to ban you for all these other plethora of reasons because we want to get to that data. If that stuff is not, how you'd say for like loot boxes, predatory, I don't know what is. So predatory behavior should be removed as unethical and illegal, just like it is when you get to the EU and they're like, you can't do loot boxes like this because it's predatory.
And the EU has taken that to an extreme and basically become communist. They're arresting people for memes over there now.
I don't think they're arresting people for memes because of them protecting the people.
It's the same laws. The laws that allow them to do what you want allow them to arrest people.
I'd have to see that particular law, but I highly doubt memes are on the same page as company taking advantage of you.
They don't have protection for freedom of expression, First Amendment rights.
But here's the thing. If we took their law for EU, for privacy and, preventing companies from taking advantage of them from predatory practices and memes, not even on the same level. Now, if we take their law and put it in our system, where we already have freedom of speech, freedom of expression, etc., then you don't have that problem. They might have two different laws. One,
the law that allows them, us freedom of expression, allows corporations and people in business freedom of expression, and they can say, "This is my terms of service. You like it, you don't like it. That's that."
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's okay in America to be predatory.
It's predatory. I have a problem with predatory behavior, as long as it's regulated by morals.
The government can't regulate morality.
No, we regulate it by morals.
We don't. We quite literally don't, because everybody shares a different concept of morality.
We didn't boycott all these businesses when they went woke.
Most people didn't. No, a lot of people just didn't care.
Most people did. That's why Budweiser collapsed. That's why Target collapsed. That's why some Starbucks collapsed.
If you make bad business decisions, sure, those things collapse. But when you have companies that make a lot of money off of stupid people, as you would call them, they're not going to lose that much money if you don't take a 15-year-old game that they're giving away for free. They're not losing money because of that. That's my point. Is like, if this was something where every game you got and every person that was ever going to buy a game ever, and they put this on the freaking front of the page, kind of like how Nintendo requires them to put key card, game is not fully on this cartridge. If that was on every game, I think a lot of people would be like, okay, well, maybe I won't buy this because I don't want this to jack with my computer in a way that costs me more money to remove it, or from tech support or whatever, because it's all freaking expensive, or I don't want to have to go through this experience, period. A lot of people might choose not to buy that, which might hurt them financially if it was a purchasable for like Borderlands 4 or anything like that. That might take place. The thing is they're doing this in a sneaky, predatory way. And again, if we're allowed to protect some people over one topic, but not another topic, and again, you can do it in a reasonable manner. You can do it where anything that they collect is collected from the game data. So if you put it into the game, you're basically publicly doxing yourself about whatever it is that you're putting into the game. But if you don't put it into the game, they don't get access to it. That's a pretty simple, fine line if that was the case it was going. And I think that's too far, but if that's what they're going to go with, if you want to give them access to people's files and agree that, sure. But going beyond the means of their stuff and having access to everything else is a problem. It's down right at the bottom.
This is what you're not. You can't. You got to limit your. This is what. Oh my God. if we got too protective over people,
This
who's
isn't
living
too
in
protective. There's a lot of people who just aren't informed on this concept. It's not that they're
people
stupid.
already, you know how stupid people have gotten. There are people who try to play with bears now.
Sure, there's people who go in China. They had a freaking bridge that half the bridge
Well,
was
people
missing,
see
and people
like-
drove off and
well, people-
died. Sure, whatever.
Who see foxes in their backyard and let their kids play with them.
Sure,
You know
they're
you know-
stupid. Okay,
Yeah.
but there's no law telling anybody that you're like the police will come out there and protect you from that fox, because you can't do that. You literally can't do that, because you'd have to kill all the foxes if that was the case.
well, they'll protect your kid by taking him away.
That's not protecting. That wouldn't fall under the jurisdiction of
And
protection.
then they get rolled up and you get killed by a freaking fox.
If you can take someone's child away, you can enslave somebody. There you go.
No, don't you don't go there with that.
No,
If parents are endangering their children,
If you can take away somebody's kid because of a poor decision or whatever that case might be, then
because
why
they're
would you not?
endangering their child's life.
Huh?
Because they're endangering their child's life.
People do this all the time on a regular. They
they
endanger
get their kids taken
endanger
away
their
from them all the
child's life
time.
by feeding them McDonald's food
And
every
they get
single
their kids
day.
taken away from them all the time.
They endanger their child's life by smoking in front of them and giving them secondhand smoke. They endanger their child's life in plethora of ways every single day, but you're going to draw the line at foxes, which may or may not actually hurt them. The foxes might be the least dangerous thing of all those things that they're doing
The point
already.
I'm making is there are many things that people used to know you will protect people from instinctively because of modern convenience and living in
In a
cities and
world where cancel culture exists
and
and can
coddling-
ruin your
and
entire
coddling-
life,
coddling
I don't see
stupid
that.
people. Okay,
what if you're a
we have
smart
50
person and you make a simple mistake? Are you stupid, or are you a smart person who made a simple mistake?
you can't be smart if you make a lot of mistakes.
But it only takes one mistake to really screw you, dude.
But smart people aren't going to make, even people of average
Nobody
intelligence aren't going
is
to.
so intelligent that they cannot make mistakes. By definition, an accident is called an accident because it's an
Do you
accident.
know how many like good decisions people make every day?
Very few.
Oh my God, you're one of
I
the
do
people.
more
Who don't,
faith in humanity, good sir. You apparently have more faith in humanity than I do. But people make, people break the law on the regular every day at minimum probably 20 times.
on the average day, right? On the average day, a person goes to, say, in the United States, right? Or you and me, for example.
Yes.
There are at least 50 opportunities for you to be killed or harmed every day.
Oh, way more than that.
At least, I said.
Yeah.
And just by virtue of having been trained to, not stick your hand in the
But
in
a
the fire on the
possibility is
stove.
not the same category as a guarantee. If
The
you had
point is-
50 ways you are guaranteed to get harmed or killed by going outside, that's a
Look, I
different
didn't say
problem
going outside. I
entirely.
mean, I'm not saying going outside. Even in my apartment, there are things
Oh, yeah.
because I've been trained.
Your apartment could
trained properly.
collapse, your roofing could kill
I
you,
don't-
you could fall into the toilet, you could fall into your tub, you could fall, whatever. You could.
You're assuming
no problem.
accidents. There are things you've been trained to do. Like, for example, there's medications in my apartment that I've been trained properly not that they would kill me. Or
Yeah.
or I've been trained to know that knives can cut my skin open, so I shouldn't rub them on my arms. I've been trained to know
I
that
do that, but
you
that's
know,
our story.
I've been trained to know that I shouldn't sleep with my head underwater. I've been trained to know. Yeah, there are. Don't even get me
There's
started on
some
this. It's
strange
like,
stuff. And yes, I agree with you. This stuff can happen, and to some level, you are subliminally trained to do this stuff every single day or whatever.
Yes.
I get that. It's the human experience. But there are also things that happen because of an accident. Let's say, for example, you didn't want to agree to the terms of service, and you're going to hit decline, but instead you hit accept. Are you stupid for that? The answer is no. It was
then
not
you just
intended to
uninstall it.
happen, and you did it anyway, and it wasn't intended. Or what if they program it that if you hit decline, it changes it to accept, kind of like some voting issues.
well, that would be fraud, and you could sue them over it
well, how can you prove it? We had the same problem voting.
because the game installs.
No. Well, the game's already installed before you get to terms of service, good sir.
I don't know. I mean, if you
You install the game, you get to the menu, and it says agree
I
to the
haven't
terms of
had
service
this
before you can hit new
experience,
game.
but if you hit no on the terms of service, it doesn't work.
Well, the game will stop, but the game's already installed. The
Well, you just uninstall
so,
it.
But if it has Denuvo, it's too late. You've already got Denuvo on your computer.
Well, in my case, I would just back it up to an image from before I installed the game.
Well, yes, but not everybody's on the level of tech as you. That's
So
why I'm saying
what
it's
is my
predatory,
incentive?
it's unethical, it causes ridiculous amounts of issues. That's my point, is that they can take advantage of loopholes and say, oh, it was just an accident, or oh, you didn't want this. Well, uh-oh, you got Denuvo on your computer now. Even if you don't play our game, we're still
I
going to
think we
ruin your
run
computer.
back and forth on this issue for
I
the
know,
audience.
but I'm saying, well, first off, audience, aren't you glad that we don't agree on everything? We're in an echo chamber. But no, all I'm saying is that you don't have to protect on everything, but there are some protections that are required, and you have shown multiple times that the Constitution protects us from X, Y, and Z. If you're going to call what I'm talking about coddling, then I would call those things coddling as well. But that's a different story. I would say there is a reasonable amount of information a company can grab from you if it's related to their product. If it's not that, if it goes beyond that point, I would call that unethical and it should be illegal because that's a privacy protection.
And I would say,
but if we don't have that privacy protection, then why can't just everybody just scam everybody and everybody be thrown into chaos because of reasons?
The law should be such that companies cannot store data locally except for the game files themselves.
I don't think they should store locally or otherwise. I don't think they should have that data to begin with.
I'm not talking the game data. I'm saying
I'm not talking game data. I'm talking any data.
I'm saying when you install a game, the only thing the company should be allowed to install are the gameplay files. Any data storage based on that should be online in the cloud.
I mean, to some extent, maybe I agree. I don't.
That's how Blizzard does it. Like
I don't know if I necessarily fully understand, so I'm not going to just blindly agree. But I would say, for the most part, what you said makes sense, and I would agree with
I have my Blizzard account, right? Right.
Why would you do such a
horrible
Blizzard
thing? Game, when I play a Blizzard game, none of my data is stored locally except for my mods. So that's on me. So all the in-game data for my characters and all that, that's stored in the game server. Okay. So I don't. So they're technically. That should be the only model that is allowed. So there should be no need to access any data locally except the JPEGs and so forth. That get.
Are you saying like the access to download? It's online, and so when it downloads, it's only those particular files. There's nothing else.
Only the files necessary to run the game should be installed.
How do you know they're only needed for that?
Well, again, it will have to be a law, and then there'll be people testing this.
Well, I know, but I'm saying that what you're saying is essentially what I'm saying. I'm saying that the only thing that they should have access to is the game files themselves, not access to the rest of your computer. That's what I'm saying.
I think what you're saying is there should be laws barring companies from doing that.
No, I'm saying they should not have access to things not related to their company, aka the game files, and any protections of those game files, or if they need leaderboard updates or anything like that.
And
that stuff's fine.
All
I don't
the data that they want, like, should only be online in your cloud account for them.
Sure, that would essentially do the exact same thing, but not everybody wants to pay for an online cloud. It's the same reason that you lose access. That's why if you pay $60, if you pay $60 to Sony to have access to the Friends TV show, and then they close that because they lose the license for that, which I still think is stupid.
My opinion
you
is
lose that $60. They
games
don't
should either
refund
be totally standalone, no online, or
DRM
totally
free
online.
is what you're saying, essentially.
No in between. Like if you want to play a game that
DRM free. That's what I agree completely. I want DRM free everything.
Yeah. Yes. Well, what I'm saying is, let's say you want to play like Elden Ring, like you were playing with Sage. You can play, and if you want to play it online, you have to have a separate installed version of the game with an entirely separate save game files that are stored online. If you want to play it locally, you have locally stored files, and it's locked down to nothing to get to that, even through the software.
That'd be difficult because they blend online with non-online, but I understand what you're saying. I don't see people doing that because then they'd have to have the game installed twice.
That you could have 17 different versions of a game installed now.
Not if you want an SSD, because an SSD is bloody expensive. It's like a whole bloody new computer to have a freaking SSD of that large terabytes to control how many games I have. That would be a nightmare to duplicate everything.
I've got a 4 terabyte SSD for my mate.
It runs like $400. What are you talking about? That's expensive.
I think it was like $275 on sale, and that was a couple years ago.
And if you got it on sale, that's cool. But then all of a sudden, that SSD speed is no longer up to par with the current stuff that comes out later on, and now you need a faster SSD, so you have to upgrade that.
There is no.
And now it's 800.
The SSDs are also so much faster. Like every
Well, I
SSD
know they're
ever made.
faster. I'm saying that it's the same thing with like DDRM4 versus DDRM5 RAM. Like some stuff just requires the faster pace, the newer technology, whatever. It's just technology in general, whether it be TVs, phones, tablets, computers, whatever the case is. Upgrades are required at some point because at some point the stuff is too heavy.
And I'd have to look,
for it
but
to do that.
I bet an 8 TB SSD is probably under $500 now.
I mean, if I could get, because I think I have a 12 terabyte is what my stuff's on, but it's not an SSD. I'd love a 12 terabyte SSD, but not for that price. It's like $2-3 grand, I think, for that.
Well, what you want to do
It's
is
bloody
make a little
expensive.
RAID array, get 4 like maybe 300 4 little smaller SSDs,
And
and make a RAID array
them.
on your PC.
I've thought about that, but I'd have to buy them over years. It would take way too long for that to come
Look,
because it's still
you got to
expensive.
look for sales. You got to look for
Yeah,
sales.
but if I'm paying $275 per each one, that's still rounding up $300 times 4. It's still $1,200. Regardless, that's
saying,
still $1,200. That's still a
I'm
lot of
certainly
money.
not made of money right now either, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's doable if you want to save up for a year or whatever.
If your goal is specifically to hit that, then yes, it is technically doable. My point is that it's not necessarily feasible, let alone for the average person. So for tech bros or people like us that do a lot of heavy computer processing and stuff, that might make sense. It doesn't necessarily make sense for everybody, everywhere, at all times. It's not treated equally because we're a different category, so to speak, of people than the people who don't care. So I would agree with you for the game installations and whatnot. And there's ways to go around it, whatever, where what you're asking for in law is essentially what I'm asking for in law. It's just you have a different method of way to do it. And I'm saying, from what I understand of what you're saying, I'm not against that necessarily. I do think downloading twice is a bit much for the average person. A lot of them are people who don't have gaming PCs. They don't have that 4 terabyte SSD or whatever. Or they don't even have a 4 terabyte regular hard drive, even though those are like $120 or something like that. They don't have that because they don't know about it. And so when you get into the gaming world, it's a little bit funnier than it is just the average. For consoles, they're pre-made to do all that stuff. They're optimized, allegedly, to do whatever they're supposed to do the way they're supposed to do it.
Most people who use PCs are nowadays for gaming are going to be on your more technical side. You know,
or they're just old school gamers that grew up on PC before consoles really became a major thing.
Like console gamers are either pure console gamers, or they could have a PC, and the ones who have a PC are going to be more tech aware. You know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I just think that a company shouldn't have access to information that is not necessary for them to operate. And if they want that, they would have to go about a long, stringent, difficult. Like I want to make it difficult and painful for them to do it. If they have to do it.
My final take on that is I don't disagree in broad concept. I just don't want to protect people from making stupid decisions too much.
I want somebody who makes a mistake, like an accident, even if they're not the dumb standard normie. I want somebody who is actually smart. Like if you go and accidentally click the term of service and it ruins your life, I'm not saying that they always ruin your life, but I'm saying if it were to happen that way, I would want there to be a protection to protect you from being harmed by that information getting out. I want every time a company gets information beyond what is necessary for their product to function, which is literally just the game files or whatever, to be considered a data breach, and them get sued into oblivion, and them regret and rue the day they thought of that as a predatory plan. That's what I want. Because they don't need access for that. The game does not. If Doom Dark Ages has to like completely nuke your power of your computer in order for them to protect against piracy nonsense, well then you should have easy tools that just completely remove the de novo and or prevent it from being put onto your actual core of your computer and instead put it in a virtual box.
Run Linux.
Well, I mean, sure, but not all games run on Linux either. That's the other problem. Like, there's too many options and problems that could pop up because of this. And I personally, I don't want things to be the way they are. I want them to fit, but there's too many variables. There's too many ways to do it. And Linux just isn't popularized. If Linux was the same level as Windows or Mac OS in terms of there was a singular version of it that everybody could use and be okay, maybe SteamOS will become that new thing. Maybe SteamOS will be the Windows we need and the Windows we really deserve, because Windows 11 is not what we deserve. Or maybe it is because we promoted it, I don't know. But I don't want Windows 11. So SteamOS comes up and says, hey, you can do all the game SteamOS stuff, and we open an entire desktop thing with a simple UI that everyone can operate and understand, even the dumbest person on the planet. Then I would say let's go SteamOS and just ignore Windows, ignore macOS, ignore all these other things that are all programmed in that regard, and prevent this stuff from being installed. I'm totally for that. But until that happens, we need to protect our data, because I mean, it may not affect us, and it might completely affect us. It's the same thing as a gun registration. Tyrants want a gun registration, so they know who has guns, so they know who to take out, as opposed to the people who like, I don't care if they have my information, are the first ones who get popped.
Yeah.
That. I don't want people to have more than they need to do whatever they have to do. And if they want more of that, I want them to fight like hell for it, because I want my privacy to be my privacy. If I am not legally allowed to have my privacy, regardless of a term of service or a quote-unquote consent, well, then all the other things that are legally protected from those very same things, overriding them, such as, again, slavery or any of those other things, then we're either protecting you or we're not protecting you. That's my ultimate thought on that regard.
Okay, so I think we're done.
Yeah, but if you guys have your own thought process, leave a comment and let me know what you think, or let us know what you think, I guess, because Matt may or may not care about the comments. I don't know. I do, but I don't think he comes.
I usually check it out once or twice.
I'm just saying, like, you might not be sitting there going through all the videos saying, "Oh, did any of these respond to anything I talked about?" Like, I don't think.
Usually, when I play the video, I'll look at it, and then later on, I'll check it a second time to see what comment happened.
Sometimes the comments take like a month to get there, but they'll get there sometimes. But
well, you get the notifications.
I'll tell you if there's one that pops up. That's interesting. You should check that one out. But yeah,
you know about the comment thing in YouTube, right? Or you can go look at all your comments.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have the YouTube Studio thing, so that's how I check to make sure that there's comments or not comments. But I typically will let you know if it's related to you, or if there's anything profound. But at some point, if we ever got like 10,000 people dropping comments at the same time, I would not be able to do that, because I'd be like, by the way, Matt, just constantly hitting you with stuff. But yeah, if you guys have a comment or what your thoughts are, I don't claim to think that anything I come up with is the only solution or the only way it can be implemented. I'm sure there's plenty of ways to do it where everyone could be more or less satisfied with it. But if you have an idea,
if you want to be vindicated like we are,
Vindictus 2. I'm not getting ad pays for that either. Just
this sounds 100% pure vindication.
Anyway, thanks everybody for hanging out. If you want to enjoy the silliness on the other side of things, you can join the Discord, which is in the description down below. We've got memes. I try to post memes on from time to time, and I believe you guys can also post memes. I think I gave you guys permission to do that.
They are vindicating memes.
They can be vindicating. Most of them are probably like Wheel of Time or Lord of the Rings memes. Mostly Lord of the Rings themes, memes. But if you want to do that, if you want to come hang out, or as I get games up and running for my gaming streams, which you can check usually on Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time until like 3 or 4 in the morning, because I have a problem. I like games and I want to keep playing them for you. But you can also come vote to see what game you want to see me play, of games I either own or games that you would like me to own in order to play for you. And then we just shoot the breeze, and if I do get a game running where I can have other people and I can invite you guys on to play with me, that can be fun as well. I believe we're planning on doing a Battle for Middle-earth one at some point, in which I have an entire walkthrough, a very, very detailed walkthrough on how to download that. It is a free abandonware that was modified by some hardcore fans and has some YouTuber backings, which is all at the bottom of the instructions if you want to check that out. Quick, easy, like 5 minutes, you're up and running and you can start playing the games. And that's all 3 of the games in a single all-in-one launcher. At some point I will host, or not, I mean, host is a strong word, the game hosts, but I will quote-unquote host an event in which we can all play together if possible, or create multiple rooms in which you can play, because I think 8 players is the maximum per room for whatever game you're playing. So maybe we'll have multiple rooms and people can just play together, or if there's only a few people who want to play, you can play with me, yours truly, which could be really fun. But a lot of Lord of the Rings games are on that list of games I own, because I own, I think, all of them, really. And then if they're just like what I'm playing right now, I think is Fable 2. And I don't know. I said I think. I know I'm playing Fable 2, and I don't even think I'm halfway through the game yet. But I've already beaten the first Fable, and then the second Fable is what we're going through. But I think we have a mixture of people who want to play Stellar Blade. Some people want to play Lord of the Rings: Battle for Middle-earth. Some people want to play Final Fantasy 7 through 9. I'm not particularly fond of Final Fantasy turn-based stuff, but I'll give it a shot if I can get it for cheap or something. But we'll see. But yeah, check out the Discord if you want to come hang out with that. We're growing at a very snail pace, but then again, I am a snail pace YouTube channel. I'm not exactly the largest thing on the planet, but come hang out if you'd like to. Leave comments of whatever you think about our topics today. Check out Vindictus 1 if you're waiting for Vindictus 2. It will definitely be aged comparatively, but maybe you'll have fun with it. Who knows? And check out, obviously, MetaPC's DEG mods and Ayaka mods. See if they suit your fancy or support them, even if you don't use them. Tell other people about them so they can get a little bit more notoriety would be the ideal. But thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Matt, you got stuff coming up, I believe, every Wednesday, Thursday?
Wednesday night, we have a wrestling show. Wednesday is overbooked on Joker Voice channel. This week we'll be talking. Well, when you guys see this video,
last week. It's always
it'll
last week.
we'll have talked about the Money in the Bank 2025, which on that Wednesday event. Again, when you guys see this video, it'll be the previous Thursday on Roman Empire's channel. We're doing another round of talking about movies about music. So
Sound of Music?
No, not musicals, but movies about like
August
CBD,
Rush?
like movies about like documentaries and stuff like that. You know?
Oh, documentaries. I was gonna say August Rush is one I liked, where it's a movie about music, but it's not a musical, so to speak. It's about a kid who learns music and is like a prodigy at it. And it's actually a really fun one.
Yeah.
It's the guy who plays in The Good Doctor, I believe. He's a little kid and he does
the disabled guy.
Yeah, the actor plays him's not disabled, but yes, that he when
I
he was a kid.
The most preposterous. By the way, I've worked in healthcare for 20 years. The most preposterous concept for a like. Don't get me wrong. People who have autism, whatever, can work in the medical field. Okay, but to be as disabled as that guy was and be a practicing surgeon, I mean, never will happen.
He's supposed to be considered a prodigy of his ilk, and.
Again, you just so I worked. I mean, I work in healthcare. I teach. I work with a lot of surgeons.
I'm not saying that it's the normal. I'm just saying that the reason it's supposed in the show itself, it's supposed to be an exception. So
if he were
it's an exception,
if he were mildly autistic, but he's not functional. Well, yeah,
but they assign somebody to him to like take care of him and stuff like that. Like he's not just wandering around on his own every moment of every day doing whatever he wants. He usually has people working with him. So he can do his stuff.
The point is, that would never happen with a guy that
probably far. Not. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that they try to account for that in the show. And
conversely, by the way, if everyone wants to see a TV show that's the most realistic medical drama ever,
House.
It's just nope.
Just kidding.
The show that just finished the first season. It's called The Pit.
I don't know. That sounds like it's in the pits.
It's a hospital in Pittsburgh. It started Noah Wiley.
I don't like Pittsburgh. No offense to people in Pittsburgh. I just don't like Pittsburgh.
But if you want to know how a hospital, especially an ER, actually works, watch that season of it. It's the far and away the most realistic medical drama ever. Like
over Chicago MD.
The only thing I could think of that even close to it was Quincy MD from the 70s.
Yeah.
Which is a great show.
Yeah,
he was a coroner. He was a coroner in most of the episodes.
What about Scrubs?
No. Now you mentioned House MD. House is highly unrealistic in terms of the plot, but a lot of the medical stuff was highly accurate.
Well, yeah, I mean that's.
But
they use the House unrealistic stuff to build the drama to make it less boring.
Yeah, because it's based on Sherlock Holmes. People don't know that it's based on Sherlock Holmes.
Cocaine addict that has an alcohol problem. Sounds about right.
House, Holmes, Wilson, Watson.
Holmes. They're basically the same thing.
The very end of the show ended the way Sherlock Holmes ended, by the way. Anyway, point is, we covered the gamut of medical dramas. The Pit, ultra realistic. Quincy MD, like almost like very realistic. Nothing else even close.
Yeah. So you can check out Matt on Roman of the Empire and on his own channel for. Or is it the wrestling on your channel?
There's not a game. I want to try to do a video this week.
No, I'm saying like your Wednesday nights. What are they on your channel or somebody else's channel?
Oh, Joker Voice.
Joker Voice. Okay.
Yeah.
So check out Joker Voice on Wednesdays if you want the wrestling stuff.
Yeah,
and
I should do a standalone on Wheel of Time, but Wheel of Crime. Just because
it needs to die. I don't want to hear about it anymore. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, no, the thing is, I started posting videos out of the horror of Wheel of Crime, so I should do a sort of 5-10 minute little what I think about now that it's over type of thing. You know,
what I want to do eventually when AI becomes good enough to do it, I want AI to literally visually watch all of the Wheel of Time, the show, and then I want it to read like an entirely different script and just be like, all right, any Wheel of Time references, change them to something else. Like make an entire different plot, and if they say something, redub it like through AI into something else where it doesn't have the wheel weaves as the wheel wills, it doesn't have Randall Thor, it doesn't have the Dragon Reborn, it doesn't have the pattern, Sidene, Sidar, it doesn't have any of those references. It's literally its own entirely brand new, total different, 100% unique fantasy.
Well,
make it make sense
10 years.
and be like, okay, is it still a good series? And if the answer is no, then it was a bad series with Wheel of Time. And if it's hey, it is a good series, it's like, well, then you shouldn't have done Wheel of Time, you should have done something else. Like that kind of stuff.
We're probably within 10 years of being able to get an AI and say, please download Robert Jordan's 15 books, and instead of pulling those,
I'll just upload them because I have the digital copies. So it's like, here, have
make
these.
sure that this actor, like, and then go through and do your casting choices and say, using that data, stimulate a live action Wheel of Time show. And
well, not even like the actor, just be like, here's the description. Give me like 20 different versions of this character and through descriptions, and I'll pick one. That's the one I want you the character.
Well, you can say make them look like Robert Jordan described the character, right? Or you can pick your own actors. Like,
well, I know, but if you want it as accurate as possible, it's like give me 20 options that you
have
create.
young Viggo Mortensen play Land, for example. You know, if you want like an actor for that level of performance.
Yes, if you had things in mind for that, sure. I would just say I'd want whatever's the book accurate. So, and the books are pretty notorious when it comes to their descriptions.
Yeah.
Apparently Harry Potter is too, but they're going to skip that. But whatever. If
Maybe
you do that,
yeah.
And then we just be like, okay, here's the description. Generate AI based off of the entire series descriptions, all the different descriptions in the entire book for each of the characters, and then generate like 20 options of varying degrees. They all hit the height, they all hit the hair, they all hit the eyes, and then just angular faces, different shapes, faces, and everything. Just give me a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I'll pick one as a casting, and then be like, okay, put that in there. Here's the kind of voice I want to put in them, just like a video game would, and then boop, switch them over. Do that for all the characters. Boom, you have your casting. Boom, you have your script. Boom, generate. It's going to take 3 million years to generate that thing, but it would be freaking cool.
Yeah, probably 10 years from now, it'll probably take about 45 seconds.
I doubt it, because there's a lot of power that requires to do that. I mean, doing one chapter of the Wheel of Time at this point would probably break the world.
The amount of computing power that is going to be available in 10 years in a desktop computer.
Sure. Realistically, I don't think so, because presumed we were supposed to be in spaceships by 1970. Like, come on.
But we were.
I meant like the Jetsons level, but yeah.
Well, that's because the government stopped, but we were.
Oh, you conspiracy theorist, you.
But no, we're not a conspiracy theory. For whatever reason, and you could argue economics, the governments that could put us into space, primarily the U.S., secondarily the Russian government, Soviet government, stopped trying to protect us into space.
Putting us in space is different than being able to live in space in environments in which you can create stuff.
Had they continued, right, development, we would have had space colonies and stuff by now.
Possible, but we don't have evidence that that's guaranteed what would have happened.
Well, we don't have a guarantee that a meteor is not going to strike the Earth and kill us in the next 10 sequence.
Sure we do.
The point I'm making is the natural development of the technology that the space technology we had, they stopped for some reason. Then they start up again with the space shuttle in the 80s, which was stupid. And then they stopped space shuttle development after, for the most part.
I believe it was the feminists. They couldn't handle the cockpit.
Now Elon and Elon primarily and Jeff Bezos secondarily are basically privatizing space access, then we're going to get that advancement finally.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, if you would like
Later.
to hang out, come join the Discord. You can follow me on X if you would like to. That's also down in the description. Matt's channel is in the description as well. And come drop a comment. You're more than welcome. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun jazz if you would like to do so. Dislikes and angry comments are just as welcome as positive ones. I am not going to, build an echo chamber. I will literally just say, if you agree, agree. If you disagree, disagree. Whatever fits you. Glad you stuck around. Again, 2.5 hours is not something people typically enjoy doing, but if you enjoyed this, glad you're here. If you made it to the end, you're freaking awesome. If you didn't make it to the end, you're still awesome. You just don't get to hear me say it. But yeah, thanks for your time. I greatly appreciate it. Without your support of being here and putting eyes on these videos or live streams or whatever we do,
If you made it to the end, you were a true vindicator.
you are ready for Vindictus 2, my young Padawans. But yes, thanks for hanging out. Check out all those cool people that support gamers and anti censorship. So no censorship, or I guess anti censorship. Whatever. Yeah, you know what I meant. But yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. But remember, my friends, walk in the light.